Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parents Stories. Today we have a very special episode for you, a compilation of some of the greatest entitled parent stories we read over the past year. So sit back, relax, and enjoy a few hours of the most entitled parents you've ever heard of. And by the way, Karen assured me that if this video gets 1,000 likes, she won't try to speak to anyone's manager for an entire week. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. And become an official member of the Re-Army today, and I'll give you a shout out in an upcoming video. r/Entitled Parents. You're too old to play video games, you creep. So I recently went to Walmart. I don't generally go to Walmart because I don't like the atmosphere, but been stuck at home for a while and needed to get some social interaction and wanted to grab some stuff to work on the outside area, just some plants and soil and whatnot. While walking through Walmart, I decided I would look at the video game section. I was looking at the Nintendo section when I noticed that they have one new Nintendo 2DS XL left. Not only is this the last one, it's the last Nintendo console they have. I was blown away. Recently, I had been doing some DoorDash to earn some extra cash, so I decided to splurge. I grabbed a person and was asking about honoring the GameStop price. Walmart still offers the price match guarantee, and GameStop had theirs $50 cheaper. The person agrees and says he needs to go find someone with keys to open the case. I stand there, waiting and flipping through Reddit for about 10 minutes or so, when a woman, entitled parent, and her son, the brat, and a Walmart associate comes up. I look up, nod my head, and look back at my phone. Out of the blue, I hear the kid shout, "That one, right there!" The shouting had startled me, so I looked up to see the Walmart associate getting ready to unlock the case. I then stop him and say, "Excuse me, I've been here for about 10 minutes waiting for someone to unlock the case to grab that item." Keep in mind that the only item in the case is the Nintendo DS. Entitled parent, "Well, sorry, but we beat you to it. Better luck next time. Maybe you should grow up instead of wasting your time on stuff made for kids." I kid you not, those were her words. No exaggeration. I was immediately furious, and it takes a lot to push me over the edge. How could you talk to a total stranger like that? I wasn't rude in the slightest, just mentioned I had been waiting for someone already. Now I understand. Am I really such a jerk that I'm going to deprive a kid, maybe about 10, of the only DS they have? Well, yes, merely because I had been waiting and she was rude about it. Me. "Ma'am, that was uncalled for. There is no need to be rude. I have been waiting for an associate for almost 15 minutes to get this item, and unless you've been waiting longer, I'm going to stand firm that I have the right to it." "That's total BS. I've been here for almost an hour and have been waiting for an associate for almost that whole time to unlock the case." Walmart associate, secretly my hero. "Wait, you just came up to me a few minutes ago. If this guy has been waiting longer, it's his discretion on what he wants to do." Entitled mom, "I had asked someone before you, duh." Not a joke, she said duh. "Where is the manager? This is ridiculous. I'm not going to tell my son, who has wanted this for over a year, he can't get one because some creep wants to play with toys." I would like to reiterate that few will believe this, but this story is true and there is very little to no exaggeration at all. This woman really was this crazy. Brad, "Mom, tell him to get it. Tell him to get it." At this point, the kid keeps chanting this because the associate has stopped until the manager arrives. "Wow, you are really going to make a child cry over your selfishness. You really are a piece of work, you know that? Do you know how sad it is to let a kid cry because you literally are taking a toy right out of his hand?" Associate, "Ma'am, please calm down. There is no need to be nasty. The manager will come and we will see who inquired first." This whole time I kept completely quiet. Associate, the first one I had asked to open the case, comes up. We'll call him Associate 2. Associate 2, "Sorry that took so long. I couldn't find a key. Is there a problem?" At this point, the two associates are discussing the situation. I'm texting the insanity of this to my wife, and the kid is crying really loudly. Finally, the manager arrives. Manager goes and talks to associates for a few minutes An entitled mom answers her phone. I know I'm taking too long. Some creep is trying to take the last toy, and the moron at Walmart is actually trying to let a grown man take a toy away from a kid. I know, what a joke. It's okay, the manager is here. Manager then signals for me to walk over away from the kid and the mother. Manager. So, based on what I know of this situation, you were here first. Now, that means it's up to you what you want to do. I understand this lady has been very rude, but I just wanted to talk with you for a second. I am keen to keep things calm over here, so what I can do for you is give you the original discount plus $20 off when the next round comes in if you're okay with waiting. Me. I'll admit I'm not stoked about it, but I appreciate your help. Manager. Thank you. This entire time, entitled parent went off on the associate, claiming that this was by far the most insane thing she's ever seen. Walmart supports creeps like me, and then calling the news and informing them that they let a creep buy all the toys. Manager. Okay, this gentleman has decided to wait for them to come back in stock if you want to take this one. Entitled parent. This is for real. Are you kidding me? This jerk kept me here for over 20 minutes. It was more like 10 tops. Just to finally agree to let my son have it? Forget him. Manager. I spoke with him and we came to an agreement on terms that worked best for everyone involved. Entitled mom. Wait, he was the person who caused all this BS? And you offered him free crap? That's BS. I was the one that was subject to sitting here while he played this stupid game. What are you going to do for me, for my time, and letting this make my son so upset? Manager. Ma'am, you are getting the item. I'm sorry that this took a second, but I had to get all of the information. That doesn't answer my question. You're letting this loser get all kinds of discounts for literally being a creep and a jerk and making my son cry. But I get nothing but what I deserve in the first place? God, this is insane. And Walmart Corporate will be hearing about this. At this point, I walked away and chuckled to myself. A week later, I got the call that they had another one in, and I went to pick it up. Wow. Just wow. Update. So a few of you had some questions about missing details. 1. I didn't change my mind as a favor to the manager. He was trying to work with me, and I didn't want to disrespect him. That lady I didn't care about much at all. 2. I understand that Walmart doesn't offer the price match guarantee any longer. I assumed that's why they had offered to price match it, but truth is I asked them and they honored it. Plain and simple. That is a minor insignificant part of the story, so not sure why so many people are offended by this. 3. We exchanged information, phone numbers, when we had our conversation. Didn't really see it necessary to add to the story. Threaten me because you called the wrong place? Have fun in jail. I posted this as a reply to someone else's thread, so I omitted several details and a good portion of the conversation to shorten it. After several suggestions, I decided to post it here and add more details in conversation, which has made it quite a bit longer. It happened before caller ID was standard on phone lines, and I was a lot more long-suffering back then. Otherwise, I would have just hung up when she tried calling again. Also, this was over 20 years ago, so the conversation isn't exact. My work number is a digit off of the local Chuck E. Cheese's. Ours is XXYY, theirs is XYYY. We are an industrial supply company and don't even have a public entrance. We always answer, "Thank you for calling our company. How may I assist you today?" Most of the time, people understand when we tell them our number and the number they're trying to reach. Sometimes they'll double check with, "Are you sure this isn't the right number?" I did have one idiot that knew we were lying because she was using the redial button, and it always dials the right number. She gave up after the 5th call. One time though, a lady insisted on talking to a manager. Me. "Thank you for her. Put me on with your manager, now." Me. "I am the manager. How may I help?" "We were just there a few minutes ago, and were turned away because we didn't have a reservation. What are you going to do about it?" "I want a refund, plus $50 for wasting my time." Me. Realizing she's trying to reach Chuck E. Cheese. "Are you trying to—" "I'm trying," can actually hear her eyes rolling, "to get a refund, plus $50. All of your restaurant workers are idiots." Me. "Ma'am, if you don't stop interrupting me, I can't—" "Excuse me? You do not get to tell a customer what to do." Long Karen rant of how rude I am and that I wouldn't be working in food service anymore. I'm the customer, and you are trying to interrupt me? I don't think so. At this point, I hang up, only to have her call back 5 seconds later. Me. Thank you, her, screaming so loud that the speaker was crackling. You did not just hang up on me. I'm coming down with my husband and brother to take care of you personally. I hope your insurance is paid up. Physical threats? Game time. Me. Fake crying voice. No, please, I'll do whatever you want. Her. Give me your name, now. My last name is Soul. First name is Richie. Just please don't hurt me. Oh, I won't hurt you. I can't control my husband and brother though. Me, still fake crying. Please, no. I need this job and can't work around kids with a black eye. Her. Well, you should have thought about that before disrespecting me. A black eye will be the least of your problems. Me. Sorry, I didn't mean to do so. Can we just forget this? I can leave the refund at the counter so you don't even have to see me. Nope. You made your bed. Now you get to lie in it. Maybe you'll remember this beating when you think about being disrespectful to another customer. This lady's just evil. Also, I want it in cash. Throughout this entire exchange, she never once gave me her name, so I had to ask. Me. Let me just get your name for the paperwork. Her, screaming. Let me? Did you seriously just try to tell me what to do? Have you learned nothing yet? Another long rant about how people working in public businesses are worth less than something you scrape off your shoes. I will have your job for this disrespect. Me. Please, forgive me. I meant no disrespect. Her. No, I'm not giving you my name. You'll know me when we get there, you little weasel. We'll be there in 30 minutes. Get ready to clock out and get your affairs in order. Slams the phone down. I called the manager, first name basis, because we were constantly getting calls for each other at Chuck E. Cheese, and told her to expect 3 people who will demand and possibly get physical to talk to a Richie Soul. She laughed and said, "That's a good one, but you missed the obvious fake name for our establishment, Charles Formaggio." Anyway, I know who you're talking about. I'll have the cops waiting for her. Thanks. An hour later, I got a call from the manager laughing her head off because the lady was in there yelling about wanting to talk to someone named Richie Soul and screaming that Richie Soul owes her some money. The police were there and arrested her and the 2 men with her on outstanding warrants. Edit. I realized last night that some people may not be familiar with Chuck E. Cheese. It's a pizza place with an arcade, an animatronic band, mainly for kids to celebrate birthdays. They require a non-refundable deposit to reserve their party rooms. Apparently, this lady thought she had a reservation, was denied, and felt that she was owed her deposit back, plus something extra. Entitled mom snatches toy from a paraplegic kid's hands. This happened in December of 2018. I help a local NGO giving kids that are in special care homes and hospital gifts during Christmas time. We get a lot of presents, which is nice, and sometimes people are very generous and buy pretty expensive and giant toys. This is not that nice. Don't get me wrong, I love people who want to help, but when we get these awesome toys, we know it would be a problem with the kids because they would get jealous when someone gets something better. Giveaways are normally done in a Christmas party or event, so everyone sees what everyone gets. As a safe measure, we decided that the best toys would be given in raffles before we give the rest, so that anyone has the chance to get them. This prevents most problems. Most. Main story. We were in this small pediatric hospital with about 25 to 30 kids in our party and had just ended the raffle segment. A 10-year-old kid we will call Charles had won an enormous Lego set, a pirate ship of some sort if I remember correctly, which was roughly his own size. It was funny seeing him carry it on his lap. As you may have guessed by the title, Charles was a wheelchair user because he could not move his legs. Then our real, totally not fake Santa came and gave away the other kids their presents, which are randomly distributed, only taking age and gender into account. Charles and the other winners didn't receive another one, just to make it clear. Kids were starting to play with their toys, with us volunteers and their parents watching. Then Karen appeared. She approached Charles and started talking to him. By the face he was making, it was obvious the poor kid was scared, and with his mom nowhere in sight, I decided to intervene. Consider I'm a 26-year-old guy with a full beard dressed in an elf leotard. Very intimidating indeed. Elf. Hello, miss. What can I help you with? Karen. Oh, nothing, sweetie. Just talking to the little one here. Me. Are you his mom? Karen. Oh no, thank God no. Me internally. This jerk. My beautiful Tyler's over there. Me. To Charles. So what is this lady speaking to you about, kiddo? Charles. She wants my toy. Me. Sorry? Oh no, it's not what you think. I was trying to trade with him. See, my poor kid got this Superman, a very average plastic action figure. But he is not that into superheroes, yet he loves Legos. So I thought, why not trade them? You like superheroes, don't you? Charles. Not really. Karen. But all boys love Superman. Me internally. You just said yours didn't. Me. Well, miss, this is Charles' toy, but I think we have some others left in the bag. We can go check if you like. That's awesome. Do you have another Lego set? Not really. This one was a special surprise, but maybe your kid would like a car, a ball, or another action figure. Karen. Then thanks, but no thanks. I will take this one. She tries to take the box, but Charles wheels himself backwards and is now hugging it tightly. Karen. You little… Me. Stop it, miss. It's obvious he doesn't want to trade it, and he won it fairly. Who cares? He can't even play with it. Look at him. Me. I see he can use his hands, so stay back. I put myself in the middle of them. Karen. Weird high-pitched sound. I don't care what you say. My boy deserves it more. He's not some useless, crippled… Actual words. She pushes me aside, and before I can react, she rips off the box from Charles' arms and starts running. Thankfully for us, Santa Claus is coming to town. Our real, totally not fake, Santa is able to intercept her. Her shouts had alerted him about what was happening, and he came to check on us. Santa. What is happening, madam? Karen. Your employee was trying to steal my boy's toy. Apparently, she forgot Santa was the one who gave the presents in the first place. Santa. I'm pretty sure that Lego set belongs to the wheelchair kid that is crying over there. Karen. For all I care, you are no one to tell me what my kid deserves as a present, and you are no one to stop me from getting it. Santa. Actually, I'm pretty sure I am. Let me present myself. I am Dr. Nicholas Saint. Name changed for privacy. Head pediatrician and manager of this hospital. Unless you want to be kicked out of the premises, you will give that toy back immediately. Who would say? Our real, totally not fake Santa was actually a fake, and he was also an actual manager. What a Christmas miracle for poor Karen. The woman was basically paralyzed, so Santa took the toy and returned it to Charles. Santa. Where is your mom, kid? Charles. My dad, he is in the other building, filing some papers, I think. Santa. Well, while he comes back, our bearded elf friend here, that's me, is going to take care of you, yes? Charles. Yes, Dr. Santa. I think he had partially heard what the doctor said to Karen. Perfect! Now for you, speaking to Karen. You are on the naughty list. Come with me. I am sure our social services office would love to hear about this incident. Karen. What? Please no. The two left the room with Karen crying like a spoiled kid. I took care of Charles until his father arrived and told him what happened. He thanked me in return, and then we all could continue to enjoy the party. On a side note, I had the chance to meet Tyler, Karen's kid. He was mad about his mother trying to trade his Superman, which she had thrown into the floor before leaving. As far as I could see, he really liked superheroes after all. He's your brother. My dad remarried when I was 7 to a woman who is mostly fine, but very spoiled and a terrible mother, unless it's on her terms. They had my little brother when I was 13. I was in boarding school at the time, and eventually ended up being brought home to help her out and go to the local school. I'd be woken up by little bro every morning. I'd get him breakfast, get him dressed, get ready for school, and then have to wake the stepmother so she could look after him while I went to school. As soon as I finished school, she'd leave the house and leave me with him. I'd have to take him with me everywhere I went, do the chores around the house, literally raise him. Anyway, school only goes to a certain age, and I had to leave again to continue my education. I missed him like a son. I moved to a single-bed apartment, and they came to visit where I live. They were staying with her cousin, who has a lovely place not too far from where I lived, and easy access on public transport. I didn't drive. Initial plan was that I would go there and hang out for the weekend. I get there with my bags, and as this was a few years ago, the conversation went along these lines. Stepmother. I'm going to go out tonight with some friends. Me. No worries, little bro and I can chill here. It would be better for me if you took him to your place. Mind, I had just got there with my bags on public transport. Me, a pushover. Okay, I guess he can sleep on a blow-up mattress. I call the boyfriend and he comes to get the little bro and I and takes us back to my apartment. He plays with us for a bit and goes home. Around 4 the next day, Saturday, my stepmother calls and says she'll collect little brother on Sunday, and can I meet her somewhere halfway as she doesn't want to drive all the way to my house. Again, I say fine. I want to spend time with my little brother because even though she's a crazy lady, he's an ace kid and I love him. Go to meet her on Sunday. We have the following conversation. Me, it's little brother's birthday soon. What are you getting him? He wants a PlayStation. Me, while you're here, I'd like to take him to the toy store and let him choose a present. Oh, well, why don't you just buy it for him if you're going anyway? Note, I am an 18-year-old paying for her own apartment, studying full-time and working nights. I haven't taken a dime from my family since I was 15. I'd saved up just to get him a present and had a budget, and getting him a present meant that I would have another month in shoes for work that had holes. Me, I can't afford that. Stepmom, you can afford an apartment, plus he's your brother. I was gobsmacked. There's no great comeuppance. I just said again I couldn't afford it and changed the subject. I still wish, 15 years later, that I'd said, he's your son. Crazy lady blames me because she can't read a sign. So last year I was working at a car valeting lot in an office business park. On this business park, we clean nearly 70 people's cars, so it's hard to remember who's who. However, on this very special day, this happened. There were 4 of us working. We've all just arrived to the lot, set up all the equipment, unpacked all we needed, and the other 3 went to the surrounding offices to collect keys from office workers who have used us for years and trust us to move their cars ourselves. One of us always stays with the equipment just to be safe. When a woman slowly drives up past our valeting lot, seemingly looking for a specific office building when she pulls up right next to me. Now, I'm 6 feet tall, wearing the red polo of the company, on my phone and checking my bank account to see if I got paid from the previous month. Pay was due the day before. Back turned to the woman at this point. Not being rude, just knowing that we have signs up saying what we are and how to contact us to book your car in for a wash. I hear her lightly cough 2 times, but think nothing of it. Then she clears her throat a little louder for me to turn my head to look at her for a quick second when she grabs me by my shoulder, turning me around, looking me up and down, then smacks my phone out of my hand and yells, "Well, I should have known. Ignoring me for your phone. That phone shouldn't even be in your hands or at this place of work. It should be in your locker." I look at her, confused, like what the actual heck, lady? I shrugged my shoulder to get her off me, stepping back, trying to comprehend what had just happened. I'm sorry, she cuts me off. Here, take my car, you inconsiderate brat, and park it up at Office 3, Bay 6, my personal parking space. Nowhere else. Office 3, Bay 6. She walks off towards her car. I pick up my phone and check it over for any damage. It's fine. When she storms back over towards me, we'll call this woman Crazy Lady. We've got me, we've got the site manager, and we've got my boss. Crazy Lady walks up to me again, shaking her head, looking like she's frothing from her mouth in anger and pure rage, snatching my phone away from me and throwing it away from us. Me, what the heck, lady? That's a brand new phone. I told you, you shouldn't have it here. Me, it's my own personal phone, and you have… She cuts me off. I don't give a hoot if it's your phone or not. I'm in charge here. And I'm telling you now, take my car and park it up in Office 3, Bay 6. Crazy Lady then proceeds to throw her keys at me and points to her car before yelling, "Now move it." Out of instinct, I caught the keys, then said, "I don't know what you think we do," but I turned around with my arms out. But we don't move people's cars around for them unless she screams at me, a literal primal scream. "Go move my car now, you jerk. I'm going to the manager and getting you written up for laziness and refusal to work." Me, listen, miss, stop talking back to me and move the car. At this point, the site manager arrives on scene to check around all the offices, make sure everyone's okay, and see if there's anything that might need some work done, so he can organize any repairs. He's a nice guy. I tried to explain again to the lady we don't just move cars around for anybody, and that they have to be booked in for a car wash. Tried being the key word. When site manager approaches, "Hey, Sam," not my real name. Who else is on with you today? And do you have your passes this time? Me. Hey, site manager. Yeah, they're in the office. Points to our little shack where we take breaks and keep keys organized. And it's just me, Brian, and John today. Who the heck cares about that? Move my car already. Site manager looks visually confused. Excuse me, who are you? Crazy lady then puts her hand over site manager's mouth and yells, I'm first. Wait your turn. Then moves her hand and slaps him. Now move the car. Site manager dropped to his knee, holding his face when my boss comes running over. Boss, what the heck just happened? He immediately tries helping site manager. Crazy lady. Finally, someone in charge and control. These two men just insulted me and berated me for about 5 minutes. I just wanted my car moved into my... She looks at me with a deathly glare. Office 3, Bay 6 private parking spot, so I can go to a meeting. And these two just made me late. The foul-mouthed punks. They should be fired and kicked off this site. Boss. Lady, why did you slap him? I saw it happen. And why would he move your car? My phone pings from the floor. Boss turns around and looks. And whose phone is that? Me. It's my... Crazy lady cuts me off again. It's mine. That little jerk stole it and threw it on the floor. Then continued to insult me with him. Site manager. Look, lady, I want you to take your keys back. Takes the keys from me and drops them on the floor in front of her. And get the heck off my site, or I swear I'll call the cops and mess your day up. You can't tell me what to do. You're a nobody. While me, I'm somebody. Site manager. I run and manage this entire business park. Boss. It's true, ma'am. He's the one in charge. I just run the valeting bay here. Boss went to pick up my phone during this and handed it back to me. I believe this is actually yours as well. Not hers, right? Unless she's got you on her lock screen. Me. Yeah, thanks. Quickly putting it in my pocket. Crazy lady just stands there, dumbfounded, seemingly trying to process everything going on, before picking up her keys and dangling them in front of me. Just go move my car, and I won't have to call the police. Site manager then grabs the keys and pockets them. Ma'am, he's not moving your car, and in fact, you're coming with me till the police arrive. You've not only treated him like dirt, you clearly have something wrong with you. And you even slapped me for no apparent reason. What was the office number again? To me, Office 3. Oh, the newest one, eh? Convenient. They're also 2 months behind on rent. That wouldn't have to be your doing, would it? To crazy lady. Boss calls for the police before moving away from the situation. Crazy lady. Wait, what do you mean you're waiting with me for the cops? I'm calling them on you. Site manager. Did she hit you at all or just me? Me. No, just through my phone. Twice. Site manager grabs the crazy lady by her arm. All right, ma'am. I'm placing you under citizen's arrest till the police come. You can come to my office and we'll show the officers the cameras and everything that's happened. Crazy lady slaps him again and tries running to her car, but her heel breaks off her shoe and she falls to the ground, screaming for help and that we're trying to hurt her. Site manager helps her back up right as the police arrive on scene. When boss man says to me, come on, we've got work to do, and we walk away. About 2 hours later, the crazy lady gets put into a cruiser, kicking and screaming before yelling at me, this is your fault. Apparently, she kept resisting arrest in the office and denying everything, even though it was all caught on camera. A tow truck later arrived after they left with her and towed her car away. Crazy lady was never seen again to this day a year later. The site manager told us at the end of the day that she doesn't even work at that office or any office on that site and was truly just crazy. The story of Karen and Kevin who won a battle and lost the war. This story is about 5 years old, and some of it, as you will read in the end, is still rolling. Probably will for a long time. It starts with Mrs. P as principal because that's what she is. Mrs. P started as a special needs kids caretaker, studied through the years of work, and graduated a doctorate in special education. After 20 years of experience in this, she was asked by the council of a medium-sized city to open and run a special needs school in the city. She accepted the offer, and after 4 years, she had a school with 150 kids in it. For special education school, that is a huge number. Such schools need way more people than regular schools, not just teachers, but also other caretakers, and the job isn't always clean and easy. So naturally, Mrs. P is always looking to hire. Then comes Karen. Karen just finished her college and got a degree in education consulting, top of her class. Her professor was on Mrs. P's school board, and she recommended her with very warm words. Karen was basically hired before she even sent her resume. Karen is married to Kevin, of course, who finished his law studies top 5 in his class, and now is doing an internship in a big law firm, awaiting his license to practice the law. Basically, their future is laid bright and clear. All they have to do is not mess up on the path to a nice, rich life. Mrs. P accepted Karen to work in the school and announced to her that she would start working on August 20th, about a week before the school year starts, as the staff needs to organize the school for the opening of the year. Karen protests that she is a consultant, not another lowlife that comes to mop the floor. Mrs. P is upset by her attitude, but Karen is top of her class and supposedly the best in the field, so she just smiles and says, "Staff starts to work on August 20th. You are staff too, so be here on that date." Karen isn't happy, but well, that's life. That pre-opening week, the staff will never forget. While teachers and nurses and other members all worked together hard to get the school up to shape, including painting the walls, setting equipment, and other chores you don't learn in college, Karen fixed her own room, sat in it all day, and played with her phone. Needless to say, she wasn't very popular among school staff. But time went on, school opened on time, and things started to get into their regular routine. Karen was causing more and more issues. She refused to fill in regular reports about her activities, was not available to meetings with staff and parents, and all in all, was a total entitled Karen. Mrs. P tried to talk to her again and again, to no avail. Eventually, Mrs. P asked the professor, the one who gave Karen her degree, the one who was on the school's board, to sit with Karen daily and coach her on how to actually work and function in a real school environment, as apparently she didn't learn that in college. But even that didn't help. Karen was hated by all of the school staff, and her work was done poorly and getting worse every week. Mrs. P had a meeting every week with Karen and the professor to discuss her performance and how to do better. Meanwhile, important reports and other documents were not filled, and the care to the students was getting worse every day. Until eventually, a parent filed a complaint about the poor treatment his kid got, and the board became aware of the issues. A meeting was set with the board, Mrs. P, and Karen. The professor promised Karen that if she will set orders to her paperwork and act respectfully, it would be all right. Karen knew she was on the hook now, but just couldn't stop being a Karen. So the day of the meeting comes, and Karen is a no-show, no call. She just didn't come that day, and the day after, and the week after. Without Karen, the board can only hear what Mrs. P has to say, but they already knew it, so the meeting is delayed to a time when Karen will show up. Needless to say, this doesn't help her case at all. Anyway, Mrs. P and the professor tried to get Karen on the phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Eventually, Mrs. P has no choice. Karen is a no-show, no call for over a week. She has to have a really good explanation to not get fired now. She calls Karen and leaves a message in her voicemail that she hadn't heard from her in over a week. She is very worried, and please be in contact ASAP as finance wants to cut her pay. Finally, Karen called in. She has been sick the whole time. She will return to work in 2 days. Good. Mrs. P marked the date and set a meeting with the professor and Karen first thing in the morning. If Karen is sick and has a doctor's note, she will not be fired, but she will get some strong talk about the no-call issue. The day comes. Mrs. P and the professor sit in her office waiting for Karen to come. She didn't come. Mrs. P tries to call her and gets the voicemail again. She is furious. The professor is furious. Karen has set a new record in upsetting and wasting everyone's time. Karen shows up 2 hours late, and Mrs. P calls her to a meeting immediately, before anything else. She calls the professor to come. The professor canceled other plans she had to come in, and the meeting finally starts 3 hours late. Thankfully, Karen had a doctor's note. She is okay on that, but she is going to get the strong talking to now. About 10 minutes into the meeting, Karen burst into tears. The meeting is stopped to cool things down, but not over yet. After a few minutes, everybody comes back into the room and Karen opens. "I'm still not okay. I still feel sick. I want to go home now." Mrs. P is silent, and the professor comments, "As a board member, I must say, As long as you are sick, your job is safe. But it is your first year. You have not saved anything in sick days or vacation days. You will not be paid for this." Karen just said, "We will see about that," collected her things, and left. Karen is sick for another 2 weeks, and her position is vacant. Mrs. P does what she can to fill the void, as do others. But it's clear an employee is missing and the position needs to be filled. Eventually, Mrs. P calls Karen again to ask how she is and when she will be back. And Karen says she can't handle the pressure and wants to quit. Mrs. P is stunned by this. Karen is only in her first year. Quitting in the middle will risk her future, and finding another consultant in the middle of the school year is almost impossible. But she keeps her thoughts to herself and just said she doesn't think it's necessary or wise, just feel better and come back. But Karen doesn't come back, and after 2 more weeks of absence, her husband calls in to ask why no money has been paid. He gets the obvious answer. Karen has no right to paid sick leave. He gets angry and promises to check his options, which in lawyers' terms is, "I want to sue you." Now it's clear that the bridge was burned and Karen will not be back. Mrs. P started looking for a replacement, and the options aren't great. Eventually, she convinced a retired consultant to come back from retirement just to save this year. The replacement starts working but can't get paid. The position is still officially occupied by Karen, who is still on sick leave. Board members are now calling Karen, and it's clear she will not talk to Mrs. P. They ask her to come back, and when she refuses, they ask her to submit her resignation to allow them to keep the school running. Karen claims she is ready to come back only if she will be paid for all her sick leave, but nobody's willing to pay that. The mess is growing bigger and bigger. The parents start to hear rumors, and overall climate is not very good. Until finally Kevin, Karen's husband, calls in and says he wants to sue the school for the payment. He gets to talk to the city lawyers that explain to him that Karen cannot sue the school or the city while she is still sick or still registered as an employee. She has to stop one of those conditions. The day after, Karen is at school with a standard resignation letter stating her mental and health issues caused by the toxic environment as her reasons. Finally, after more than 2 months, the position is clear and filled right away. What was just rumors by now has become fact. Parents were aware that something went on. Finally, in a group chat of parents with Mrs. P, they ask her what this was all about. Mrs. P replies that Karen has resigned due to her mental illness. Kevin did try to sue the city. It went to mediation before court hearing. The mediator saw the material and strongly advised Kevin to withdraw. Kevin listened, and the whole thing was forgotten for a while. 3 months passes. School was doing okay when an email from Karen landed in Mrs. P's inbox. In short, dry, legal language, Karen informs Mrs. P that she knows she was slandering her in public. She has screenshots as evidence that she claimed she had mental issues, and that is all not true at all. Karen demands Mrs. P to apologize in public and clarify that Karen did not have any mental issues, and her resignation was due to professional disputes. Mrs. P was shocked. She knew for a fact that Karen was, let's just say, not 100% okay up there, and she had her resignation letter to prove it. Going this way from Karen was beyond stupid. Mrs. P, however, did the right thing and sent a letter to the school board asking them what they think should be done. School board just hears the words legal actions and freaked out. They didn't want any of this. They demanded Mrs. P just apologize and let it all be gone. But Mrs. P was not willing to admit wrongdoing of anything, as she knew she did everything right. The board kept his opinion, claimed Mrs. P is being pointlessly stubborn, and they will not cover any legal matters in that issue, which is against Mrs. P's contract. All legal liability that she has within her work should be covered by her employer. That meant her job was on the line now, and Mrs. P was determined to fight back and win. But without the city resources, fighting a slander lawsuit is expensive, and with her job at risk, it will not be easy. Mrs. P went again to the parents' forum, let them know that she had some personal legal issues, and asked if they knew who could help. One of the parents, a lawyer, agreed to help without pay. Note, it is highly unprofessional to ask parents to help in personal issues, but it wasn't really a personal issue, it was a school issue, and that parent lawyer noted that after he was informed the details. The lawyer agreed Karen and Kevin had no ground to sue, but said that if they sent the email, their intention is to sue anyway, and nothing Mrs. P would do will stop them. So it was better if Mrs. P just ignored it and let them dig their own grave. And digging they dug. A week after the first letter, a new letter arrived, by regular mail, in an envelope. It was printed on Kevin's law firm letter, stated that matters should be resolved by public apology or they will sue. Even the lawyer did not believe someone in a large, prestigious law firm is that dumb, but here's the letter to prove it. A trial will take time and will cost money, even if he is doing it for free. Not to mention that Mrs. P would be fired no matter the result. They had to find another solution. The lawyer figured out that stupid people need stupid solutions. He thought about it for a while, and then remembered he had a classmate in college who went working for that firm. He called that classmate and asked him how he is, now that they are both well after their college years. Apparently, his classmate worked hard and got to become a junior partner in the firm. When the lawyer mentioned the case, his friend was surprised. He hadn't heard about this case, and he should have, as lawyers in large firms gossip like old women. And a slander suit against special education school? It's the most raunchy gossip in town, but also a PR nightmare. He and the other partners would never take a case like this. It will make them look like greedy lawyers who would skin off anybody for a penny. Not good publicity. He promised to look around and check what is going on in the firm. It didn't take him long. The next day he called the lawyer back. He found out no lawyer in the firm was aware of this case. He figured Kevin used the firm paper to send the letter, but no lawyer above him was involved. Good news for our lawyer. Together, they planned the right answer to Kevin and Karen, the answer that will shut them out for good. The lawyer called Mrs. P and told her his plan. It was easy, simple, and malicious. She didn't like it, but agreed to it as it was the best and fastest way to resolve the situation. Next thing, the lawyer drafted his settlement agreement. He called Kevin and asked him if it will do. The agreement stated that Mrs. P will apologize to Karen in the most public way she can, and will post all the legally related papers alongside the apology in the school webpage. The agreement stated that the apology can come in any form, as long as it can be searched in Google search and has a link from the school webpage. It also stated that after the apology, Karen and Kevin will not be able to sue the school ever again, and will have no further demands from Mrs. P or the school ever again. The last clause stated that if any unrelated issues will come out of this agreement, Karen and Kevin will be liable for any consequences and the school can demand any losses it suffers from them. Kevin agreed to all the terms. Within 2 hours, Karen and Kevin signed the agreement and the next stage was ready to launch. The lawyer came to Mrs. P's office with the equipment he needed and the apology transcript. He set a video camera and Mrs. P read her apology. She opened with an introduction, who Mrs. P is, what she has done so far in her career, her degrees and recommendations. She also made an introduction to Karen, her career so far, her degree and recommendation. None so far. And after the introduction, she explained that Karen claims she left the school in the middle of the school year because of professional disagreement, and any other comment Mrs. P or any others have claimed about Karen's health and mental issues is false, and Mrs. P is sorry if Karen or anybody else heard and if Karen's feelings were hurt. In essence, anyone who sees the video understands exactly who Karen is, and even if Mrs. P didn't say it in words, it was clear she thought very bad things about Karen. Right after it was finished, the video was uploaded to the school's YouTube channel, and a sub-site under the school website was created showing the video and all the related documents, including the threatening letter Kevin sent in his firm paper. A link was sent to Kevin with a short line, "That settles the matter. Don't contact us ever again." Karen and Kevin had won the battle. A month passed, and Kevin suddenly got fired from his firm. Apparently, he wasn't in a position to send a letter threatening lawsuit under the firm paper without any higher-up lawyer watching him. Sending it like that for a case he managed himself was plain fraud. He was reported to the bar, but not to let a scandal and PR disaster come out. He was just let go and no further punishment was taken. The firm sent a letter to the school admitting the fraud and asking the school to remove the threatening letter Kevin sent. The school graciously agreed and Kevin's letter was removed, but the firm letter admitting Kevin's fraud was published instead. Kevin was done in the business. Any lawyer who he came to looking for a job asked him why he left the big firm before he got even past the first stage, and a simple search of his name showed he committed fraud against a special education school from all places. Nobody would hire him. Meanwhile, Karen kept looking for a job in her field. She had to wait until a new school year would begin. Her college professor was not willing to write her any recommendation, and she had to explain the missing year in her resume to any principal. A few school principals heard she worked with Mrs. P and called her to ask about Karen, which Mrs. P only said that due to legal issues, she can't talk about Karen, and it is all explained in the legal section of the school website. That was enough. Any principal who knows Karen sued her former school will not dare to hire her. Karen lost that school year, and to support herself, began looking for other jobs. She found the job as a secretary in an office that didn't Google her name, and worked there for a couple of months until the manager got bored one day and decided to search Karen's name. She was fired the next day for a minor mess-up. It's been more than 5 years since this happened. Kevin is a lawyer in a sleazy firm, hired mostly by low-life criminals. He loses most of his court cases and is known as the low-life lawyer for the low-life criminal. Karen is still looking for a job. She can't hold a job for more than 6 months before she gets fired for petty things. They both know very well why they're doing so poorly in life. Kevin sent another threatening letter demanding to remove all mentions of his name and Karen's name from the school's website. He also asked to remove the video. The lawyer just told him that it is what they agreed on, and if he wants to renegotiate, he will demand Kevin to pay for damages. He didn't specify what damages, and Kevin didn't ask. He gave up. Karen and Kevin admitted defeat. They lost the war. Mrs. P eventually removed the video from the school site and set it as private on YouTube, but all the legal letters are still posted there and will be there until, well, maybe forever. What time do you get off work? This happened a couple of weeks ago, but the party involved tried to come in today and I had to tell them they were banned. So I decided to share my experience with y'all. It was the end of a 60-plus hour work week at the gas station / convenience store I work at. Customers have been more aggressive than they usually are, making my days longer and more strenuous than they usually are. The only saving grace is knowing I'm off the next day, and I have a six-pack waiting at home, but it wasn't that bad that day. Then the last hour of my shift rolls around. This kid hops out of the passenger seat of someone's car and walks in. I greet him like anybody else as he approaches the counter. Customer, let me get a pack of Newport Smooth 100s. I walk over to grab them as I was going to ask for an ID. I'm interrupted by him. Customer, actually, do you have a carton of them things out back? I check the drawers and I don't find any for the brand he was looking for. Me, no, sorry, just these two on the shelf. Customer, why not? Me, the governor recently passed a law banning the sale of all menthols starting at the end of the month, so we stopped ordering them. Customer, oh, all right. Give me the last two then. Me, sure. Can I just check your ID? Ah, hold on. He runs out back to the car. He's at the driver's seat window talking to someone. A woman emerges out of the car and walks in with him. I'm assuming she's his mom. Me, hi, how are you? Customer's mom, get me a pack of Newports. Before I could speak, she interrupts again. You got a carton? Me, no. Why not? So I explain why we don't have a carton of them things anymore, as I did previously to her son. She rolls her eyes. That's stupid. I nod in agreement because she's not wrong. Customer's mom. Whatever. Give me the last three. Me. Unfortunately, I can't sell you these tonight. Why? Because you had your son come in and ask for these exactly same cigarettes, and when I asked for an ID, he went out and got you. I can't do the second-hand sales for these products. They're for me, though. Me. That might be the case, but because you sent him in here and he didn't show an ID, it looks like you're buying them for him. I already told you they were for me. I still can't sell you these, so I'm gonna decline the sale tonight. I'm sorry. So she stands there at the counter staring at me as more people come in and the line behind her grows. Me. Ma'am, I need you to step aside. I have other customers waiting to be rung up. She steps aside and her son starts chiming in as I'm ringing other people up. Son, so why can't you sell us them? I ignore him. Son, hey yo! I'm getting annoyed, so I respond. Me. Look, I already explained to both of you why I'm refusing the sale. If you're not going to get anything else in the store, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. I apologized to the customer I was ringing up, and before the next person can walk up, the son steps up to the counter. Son. Give me a scratch ticket. Me. Sure, did you find your ID? He scoffs. Forget you! Me. Okay, excuse me. I motion for the next customer to come up. As I'm in the middle of this next transaction, she has more to say. Customer's mom. Actually, you can't refuse a customer. If they want something, you legally have to give it to them. Me. I absolutely have the right to decline a customer for any or no reason. No, you don't. I've officially given up being professional at this point and just start talking as I normally do. Me. All right, you're still not getting those Newports though. Get me the manager. Me. Not here. When is he in? She's here in the morning. Also, managers aren't always men. You really don't know crap. You just started. All right. The mom grabs her son by the arm and starts pulling him away towards the door. Don't worry, baby. I know the owner. Actually, they both stop. We don't have an owner. We're a corporate store. They continue towards the door and are outside. The son pops his head back in. Yo, what time you get off work? Me. In an hour? Son. I bet. I'll see you and see how mouthy you are then. Me. Haha. Okay, buddy. Customer. Jerk. Me. Yup. The store's finally empty and it's been for a few minutes, so I step out for a cigarette. When I come back out, they're parked in the fire lane staring at me. I just wave and continue smoking until another customer comes in. I love my job. It's your wedding? I'll wear pajamas. My biological mom left when I was 3, and I was raised by my dad and my crazy ex-stepmother. I was sheltered from my biological mom's crazy until I was an adult. It took me growing past a teenager to realize she was stuck in that teenage mentality. She's very attention-seeking and leans hard into melodramatics. Her fondness for drinking also exacerbates her melancholy, and I've had many a late-night phone calls from her about how she's so lonely. She never should have left my father. This is all my crazy ex-stepmom's fault, blah blah blah. She's also permanently broke and always looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, and then is surprised when she gets ripped off. Anyway, I moved from Australia to England for love, and also because I was a tiny bit obsessed with Oscar Wilde. We very happily told my family when we were engaged, and because of the requirement to travel, we chose a date quickly, 18 months in the future. Those that have planned a wedding know there is lots involved and it can be stressful. Biological mom was a nightmare, trying to butt her nose in about my dress. Apparently it was wrong that I took my mother-in-law to be instead of her, even though she lives in a different country. Location. We chose Scotland because it's our happy place, but she wanted it to be down south, London way, so she can do tourist stuff, and so on. Anyway, knowing that she's broke, I limited costs where possible. She needed to only pay for her flight over and her rooms on the wedding weekend. We started to talk about what she was going to wear. Something about my mom. She has a back tattoo. It covers her entire back and was done by some bikers in a garage and is pretty bad. She sends me pictures of slinky, backless ball gowns. Genuinely, these dresses she's sending are awful. I don't really mind what people wear usually, but I did want to be able to look at my wedding photos and not cringe, so I offered a solution. As she misses out on wedding dress shopping, I offered to take her out when she arrived and buy the dress for her. Now, I had quite the army coming out for our wedding, and my sister, who was my maid of honor, came out 3 weeks early to help. I also had a woman coming from Oz who was close to my heart and one of my mom's friends. I thought the 4 of us could all go dress shopping together. Boy, this was a mistake. My mom pettily sniped that my sister and I were paying too much attention to her friend. We weren't, and started pouting about having to try on dresses. She was acting like a kid, and my patience ran thin, but the goddess that is my sister smoothed the ruffled feathers and finally got my mom in some dresses. Let's just say, anything I had chosen was wrong and awful, and my mom could not understand that she was 20 kilos heavier than she thinks she is, so certain styles just did not suit her. Finally, a dress was found. I go to pay. She walks off with the bag. That's it. No thank you. No acknowledgement, and this was not a cheap dress. Just took the bag and complained that she was hungry and that her friend had been able to have lunch and she hadn't. Day of the wedding arrives. It was great. Husband and I looked amazing. We were surrounded by people we love and that loved us, and we were happy. They were having a boogie on the dance floor, and I turn around to see my mom in her pajamas. Apparently, her dress was too uncomfortable, so she went to the rooms to change into her pajamas. Not something nice, but still comfortable. Pajamas. The biggest annoyance, they didn't even match. Karen gets escorted out of my water park. So I was a lifeguard at the water park section of my state's big amusement park. I was just about to turn 17 and school was out for the summer, so my mom finally allowed me to get a job. I applied at the amusement park as a lifeguard because I am very much the kind of person that loves water. I go through training. I learn CPR and Heimlich maneuver. That way I can work as a certified employee. First day the water park portion is open. It's packed to max capacity. Wave pool is completely full. Lines are backed up for slides, and queue lines at the food shacks are winding into spirals. It's a mess. So since it was my first actual day with people, not just other lifeguards for training, I was put at the bottom of the slide. I had expressed that morning that I have extreme anxiety, and that day was one of the worst days, so I was allowed to stay at the bottom of the slide, and other lifeguards would skip over me during rotation. The slide I was working on had 2 staircases, one for single riders and one for double rides. Single riders have a single rider float, and double riders had space for 2. When the park gets busy, we would open up both staircases and sort them so that single riders would go up one staircase and double riders would go up another. In comes Karen. I'm going through the line, making sure that people are in the correct line because there's a double rider line and a single rider line. When I see Karen with her 2 kids, me, Miss, are you a single rider? Karen, no, I'm not riding. I'm just going to walk these 2 up the stairs to keep them safe. Me, oh, okay, no problem. I go back to asking people in the line to make sure they're in the right line. When it gets to be Karen's turn, she asks me for a float. At this point, I'm confused. Karen, yeah, I'm gonna go up there with them, but I wanted to ride down too. Me, then you're in the wrong line. You need to be in the single rider line. You're the manager here, right? Just give me the float. It's worth mentioning again that no, I am not the manager. This is literally my first day working here with actual people. Me, no, I'm not the manager. Well, obviously you are. You've been at this slide all day. I didn't bother trying to explain to her that I wasn't the manager, but instead tried to reason with her. Me, ma'am, you cannot just skip the entire single rider line. That would make the other riders unhappy. After this, she went off on some tangent, literally called me names. Mind you, this is a grown woman yelling at a kid. I was 16 at the time, but I definitely looked considerably younger. Another lifeguard in rotation saw that I was being yelled at and went to get the actual manager, who came to see me in tears, still being yelled at by this mother who thought she was entitled to a float. Security ended up escorting the woman out, and I was sent to the break room for a double break. My manager was a super nice lady and knew the anxiety struggle. Karen, be gone. Entitled Mother Refuses to Pay. So for about 3 years, I was between 12 and 15 years old. My dad owned a pub. I'm from the UK, and until my health got bad, I used to chip in the majority of the time cleaning, washing up, serving, waitressing, etc. So this story takes place when I was 14 on one of the busiest nights, Halloween. For those of you who don't know, Halloween is chaotic for pubs. Normally I would have stayed upstairs. My dad lived above the pub. Just minding my own business, sitting at my dad's desk sometimes answering calls for him, since he was downstairs helping the staff cope. However, on this day, one of our servers had called up saying they weren't going to be able to do their shift since their kid had become ill. This was understandable, these things happen. The shift they had was normally called the graveyard shift, midnight until we closed. Anyways, so there weren't many customers, right? So I could cover it. Wrong. Oh, I was so wrong. When I got downstairs to cover the shift, there were still loads of people, and this is where it began. I was taking the drink order of someone when entitled Mother walks in with Brat 1 and Brat 2. It was midnight, mind you. Brat 1 was about 4 years old and Brat 2 was 7. I saw them. made the mistake of making eye contact, and then went back to taking the customer's drink order. I asked nice customer, "So, you want 2 of these drinks, correct?" Nice customer, "Yes, thank you." Me, "All right, I'll add it to your bill." Already had 4 drinks between him and his buddy. Entitled mom starts screaming from the other side of the room. "Excuse me? Me and my babies are thirsty." Yes, she actually said that. Me, "One moment and I'll take your order." I go to the bar and give the bartender nice customer's order. As his order is being prepared, I walk over to entitled mom and her brats. Me, "Hello, how may I—" Brat 1 cuts me off. "Give me a cola." Me, a little annoyed. "1 cola, got it. Anything else?" Brat 2, "I need lemonade, now." Me, looking at the entitled mom. "And what would you like, ma'am?" Entitled mom, who was looking at her phone whilst her babies ordered. "Ugh, get me an—" orders the most expensive beer we have, something like Stella, I can't remember too well. Me, "Okay, so you want—" I list their order. "Would you like to pay now or open a tab?" Entitled mom, looking at her phone. "I don't care. Tab." Me, "Okay, I'll go get your drinks." I went up and gave the bartender her order and took nice customer's order to him. After about 3 minutes, her order of drinks were done and I brought them to her. Not moments after I set the pop on the table, she screamed, "What's this?" "That's your kids' drinks, ma'am." "Excuse me? I didn't order those for my babies." Me, "Yes, but your kids ordered them, and when I read the order back, you didn't say anything, so I assumed you were okay with it." Entitled mom, "I wasn't listening. They're kids. Can't you see they're too young for pop?" Brat 1, "But mama, I want that drink. You said I could have anything I wanted." "I know, baby, but pop isn't good for you. If you want something sweet, have your packet of wine gums." For those of you who don't know, wine gums have one of the highest sugar contents of all sweets in the UK and are really bad to give kids. Then entitled mom turns her attention to me. Honestly, I wasn't expecting her to give me trouble and ask to swap the drinks out. Entitled customers have asked this before, and I guess it's what she meant. But entitled mom turning her attention to me. "Take the pop. I want 2 fruit shoots." Me, "Okay, ma'am, I'll grab them now." With that, I took the pop to the bar, took the fruit shoots to her, and asked, Me, "Would you like your bill?" Entitled mom still looking at her phone while brats 1 and 2 are eating a huge bag of wine gums. "Yes, yes." Me, "Cash or card?" "Cash." She then hands me a 10-pound note before I can even tell her that her tab is $11.60. She looks at me when I don't leave and snaps, "Why are you still here? Go get me my change." Me, "Sorry, ma'am, but you still owe $160. "What do you mean I still owe money? I paid for my drink and my baby's fruit shoots." Me, "But you still owe money for the pop your kids ordered." Now, normally I would have took the pop off the bill or let her only pay for 1 if she was a regular, or if she had something when they first ordered the drinks so we didn't make them. But she was so rude and her brats had made a mess of the table, leaving me with more cleaning up than I already had before. Entitled mom, "My babies didn't even drink the pop, so I don't have to pay for it." I just looked at her, then spoke. "Ma'am," in a firm tone, "you owe $160. Pay up or I'm getting the owner." I was so done with her BS and wanted to cry out my frustrations, but I just gritted my teeth instead. Plus, my dad would be able to handle her much better than me. "Good. Then he'll explain why a kid thinks she knows better than an adult." That was it. I had already dealt with one Karen that week, which meant I was on a short fuse. So when she said that, I was done with dealing with her. I grabbed my radio from my apron pocket. Everyone on duty had one. And spoke. Me into the radio. "Dad, can you come to X section? I have a problem customer who won't pay all of her bill." Her face turned white when she realized she was in fact speaking to the owner's daughter. Before he could even come, she opened her purse, producing the money she owed, threw it on the table. It fell on the floor, picked up Brat 1, and stormed out with her brats. Barely touched her beer, but Brat 2 put the fruit shoots in their Halloween sweet bags. My dad came, asked where she was, and I explained. He let me and the bartender have the untouched pop and poured the beer away. He was proud of me for how I handled this one without him and how I didn't cry. The last Karen I dealt with brought me to tears, and my dad had to intervene. Always clear your memory card before pawning an item. A lady, who we'll call Leech, for reasons made clear at the end, spent a year helping her best friend, Psycho, harass my family and I over a custody dispute. Leech wasn't related to the family at all, just a friend with an affinity for causing drama. She would make fake profiles along with Psycho and tried to fish information about us out of friends and family. Just some real nasty stuff. Leech would take the online harassment further than Psycho, which never made any sense to me because I never had a personal problem with Leech. We had known each other back in grade school and were even casual friends. She used our past history to try to weasel into my friends list, but I already saw that she was helping Psycho slander my name online and didn't buy into her malarkey. She then tried copying my display pictures and making them into ugly memes. Any post I made public was instantly captured and mocked on her stepmother's support page. Leech was dating the best friend of Psycho's husband. Her boyfriend had a daughter from a previous relationship, and Leech was a proud and attentive stepmother. Most of her identity revolved around being a stepmother. The page on which she posted the memes she made and posts she stole had been running for a number of years and had nearly 10,000 members. She created it herself. She and Psycho also started a handful of other pages for the sole purpose of harassing and mocking us. A couple I had to have legally removed. Police were involved in everything. This had been going on since before March, and for Christmas that year, my wife's grandmother got each of the great-grandkids a 3DS. To save some money, she went to a pawn shop for some gently used consoles and games. This is where karma had dealt us a sweet hand. Nana had purchased 4 3DS in total. The one my daughter just happened to get had a memory card inside full of photos. Upon a quick scan, I realized the people looked familiar. It was Leech and her boyfriend. Over and over, dozens of photos, some a little sketchy. Why else would I be given this opportunity? Of course, I was meant to use them, right? I immediately get to work, uploading every photo and file and set up a fake email account with bits of her information to make it look like hers. I joined any and all free dating sites I could think of, even downloaded some apps that aren't advertised as dating, but we all know that's how they are used. In short, I plastered her selfies everywhere. I refrained from using the inappropriate ones because I just didn't feel right about that. Implied loose morals was as far as I wanted to take it. I answered a couple of messages on each site to make it look more authentic, even sharing more innocent enough selfies to prove I was the real deal. A while ago, I had come across Leech's cell number online. She had shared it in a public comment, and I was in the process of screen capping any post she made about my family. I had screen capped that comment too, but hadn't done anything with it. I was just gathering and retaining all the information I could, and my patience was about to pay off. After giving a few guys the number, I didn't bother logging on anymore. That was enough damage, I thought. It would be easy for her to prove that she had never visited those sites, and that they should be able to recognize the photos as being taken with the crappy lens of an early 3DS. But then the other boot dropped. After a few weeks, maybe a month, I go snooping on Leech's stepmother's support page to see if she had anything to say about my antics, but it was quiet. Weird. I check out her profile and find all her past posts have been hidden, and the boyfriend scrubbed all photos available. When I check out his profile, there's this gigantic rant about unfaithful people. Oops. Turns out, Leech had been with her boyfriend's best friends, the guy Psycho was married to's older brother. It had been going on for some time, and no one knew anything, not even Psycho. If the boyfriend hadn't confronted her about the random texts she was getting from guys, he never would have seen the other texts that were clearly disguised to hide what was going on. Being a self-proclaimed stay-at-home stepmom, he had visitation every other weekend and 2 weeks in the summer. Leech had no interest in holding a job. The boyfriend owned and paid for everything, including her cell phone. When he found out about this, he kicked her out of the house and took her phone. He pawned it off to pay for the enormous debt that she had put him in. The reason the 3DS was in the pawn shop at all was because he needed some extra cash. It was his 3DS, and he had pawned it for some money for a present for her. He wasn't able to pay it back in time, and the shop owner resold the item. That's why the memory card wasn't wiped or anything. I'd say it was meant to be. You already have kids, you should give me one. This is the most manipulative and ugly, classist person I've ever met. She's married to my uncle. Let's call her Mary. Mary has pulled a lot of entitled stunts over the course of her life. I probably have over 100 stories that I can share that I know of. I don't talk to that part of the family because it's horrible, but there are a few family gatherings in which we meet. Good old Mary is infertile. She has 2 daughters. One was conceived in vitro and then introduced into her womb. The other one popped out of nowhere, literally. We suspect she bought it out from someone since she has a record of trying this, but whatever. Before having her first daughter, when I was around 10 years old, my mom broke the news to the family that she was pregnant. Yay! Mary wasn't happy with this because she had been trying for years with her husband and wasn't able to get pregnant. She always had this sort of competition with my mom and with everyone because she has this need of being the best one in everything. She must have the most money, the most expensive clothes, being more successful in her career, having the happiest marriage, going to the most exotic places. But she wasn't the best. She was the only one with no kids out of the 7 siblings of the family, and she was also one of the oldest wives. So imagine her jealousy when the youngest one was going to have her second kid while her and her husband were still child-free. So she pulled my mother aside one day and told her, "You know, it isn't fair that you can get pregnant before us. It wasn't fair for you to have OP before your brother since he's older than you. But whatever. But you know, we've been trying for years now, and we're just exhausted. And we're not comfortable with trying those artificial methods, nor having a baby without our blood. So, since you're family, and we know you are not in a financial position to take care of another baby right now, what would you say if I offered to pay for everything pregnancy-related, and after the baby is born, I would pay you an amount for keeping it as your brother's and I's baby?" Of course, my mom said no. She told me roughly how the proposition went years later, but only because I was the one that found out why she was so pushy about buying my brother. Because this wasn't just a one-time thing. She tried constantly to convince my parents to sell them my brother throughout the next 5 months, and even for some months after he was born. You see, my father is a son of immigrants. He has a European bloodline and is very handsome. Mary also has a need of proving to everyone that she has royal blood, and aesthetics are everything to her, hence the need to show herself as the best of the best in every aspect of her life, and she will not hesitate to do anything to achieve her goal of being the perfect woman with the perfect life. This includes pretending she has white genes. She doesn't. We live in a very heavily mixed-race country. She was born in one of the least developed states in a humble family in a small town, with only town people that have been working under the sun for generations, so all of them are darker. She married my uncle, who comes from a family that has lived in an island for generations and who is also the darkest one of all the siblings. There is no way she is going to have a baby who is white. But my mom is one of the most light-skinned between her siblings, and she married my dad, who has Italian and Polish genes. And I was born with very pale skin and smooth hair. Mary's and her husband's hair are what we describe as bad hair. Not in an offensive way, but that's how it's called here. It's basically super twisted and thick hair. There was a big chance my brother was going to be born European looking. You already know where this is going, right? One day I was minding my own business while in their daughter's birthday party, and I happened to wander close to where Mary was talking with someone. Didn't know her. And I heard how she openly complained about how her daughter looked and how she wished she managed to convince my mom and dad to just give her their baby. There was more said, but I can't remember it all. And yes, my uncle approves of her behavior and patronizes it. My son needs to sit here. Okay, so I'll give you some backstory before I start. My aunt passed away a year ago. This happened at the funeral. So I was sitting in the room where the casket was resting. I was sitting in a chair away from everyone else, and my dad was sitting in the same style chair I was a couple feet away. So this was before the service had started, and kids were playing around and running around. It was a pretty big room, and I understand that they're just kids and don't really know any better. So one kid was tired and wanted to sit in my chair. This was the entitled Brad. "Hi, I'm really tired and need to sit down. Can I sit in that chair?" Me. "No, I was here first, and I'm waiting for the service to start." Entitled Brad started throwing a tantrum and really wanted to sit in my chair. Entitled Mom eventually heard her son crying and throwing a tantrum and came over to investigate. Entitled Mom, why are you crying? Entitled Brad, this boy won't let me sit in his chair. I'm really tired and need some rest. He continues crying. Why won't you let him sit in your chair? Me, I was sitting here first, ma'am, and I'm waiting for the service to start. Well, I think my son needs to sit in that chair. Me, no, I was here first. I'm not going to give your son a chair for him to rest in. Your son should be more respectful, along with all the other kids. This is not a playground. Well, I bet you didn't even personally know my aunt's name. I was severely offended by this statement, and my dad came over to see what the fuss was about. Dad, what's going on over here? Your brat won't let my son sit in that chair. Me, I was super angry and fired back. First of all, I'm 17 and far from a brat. Your son is the one who is a spoiled little brat. Dad, my son was sitting here first, and you have no right to offend my son like that, referring to when she said I didn't know my own aunt. Entitled Mom, well, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were related to her. Eventually, my aunt's daughter came over and asked her to leave because she was causing a scene. Okay, I will. I didn't want to go to this stupid funeral anyways. Entitled Brat suddenly then hit me and blew a raspberry at me and started laughing. So I stood up over Entitled Brat and scared him. Then him and his mother stormed out of the funeral home. My aunt's daughter was furious. I wanted to hit Entitled Brat so bad, but I couldn't because that wouldn't have been right. Anyways, after that, the funeral was actually really good, and we told stories about my aunt's life, and it was a good time. Entitled Mom and Baby demand my new 4K PC. So I was friends with a kid from my school. I thought he was a nice kid, but as soon as he saw my new PC, he became a begging brat. We've got me, we've got Entitled Mom, we've got begging brat, we've got Mom, Dad, and nice dad. So lockdown was going to be issued in a few weeks. So I invited a few of my closest friends around and their parents, as they were friends with mine. I have wanted a gaming PC for the past 3 years, and I finally got enough money to buy it. My dad wasn't exactly happy, but he realized that I had wanted it for a while and would need a PC for online lessons. So I hopped onto Amazon and bought my PC. Now on to the story. We invited the friends and parents over for a nice dinner. It was meant to be a nice gathering, and the majority decided on KFC. But no, Baby wanted McDonald's. The Baby and Entitled Mom were begging for all of us to have McDonald's. Like, jerk, we invited you to be nice, and this is how you repay us? We all said no, and we had KFC. During dinner, the parts for my PC arrived. I was so excited that I devoured my food and rushed upstairs to build it. My friends came up, and since they all like PCs too, we all worked on it together. One person did the RAM, another did the CPU, you get the idea. So it was finished, and everyone left. The Entitled Mom, nice dad, and Baby stayed behind, as they were good friends with my parents. Entitled Mom, so, Baby told me that OP got a new PC. Mom, yeah, he's been wanting it for 3 years now, and he needs it for school. Baby, Mom, I want a new PC. Since I had some form of friendship with this kid, I told him that he could have a PC. Brad, really? Me, yeah, sure. Entitled Mom, thank you so much for being so kind. Brad, let's go get it. Me, I'll bring it down for you. I brought him my old PC. Like I said, it was bad, but could run most games at 60 frames per second, 720p. I fitted some RGB fans to disguise the looks, so if anyone came and saw it, they wouldn't know how bad it was. However, it was considerably smaller, Baby noticed. Brad, your PC is much bigger than that. Me, I know. So, where is it? Here. No, you said you would give me your new PC. Me, no, I said I would give you a PC, and this is my old one. It runs all modern games at 720p 60. Brad, no, I want the new one. Entitled Mom walks in. What's all the shouting about? Brad, OP won't give me his PC. OP, you said you would give him your new PC. No, I said I would give him a PC, and this is the one I'm giving him. I've been saving up for 3 years and won't just give it away. But you're like 12. You're too old for this PC. Keep in mind that Baby was 11 and she claims to be such good friends with my family when I'm 15. Dad, what's going on? Me, they are demanding. He has traumatized my son after lying to him. He said he would give him his new PC. Dad, OP, why are you giving your new PC away? Me, I'm not. I told baby that he could have my old one, and now he's demanding my new one. Dad to entitled mom, yeah, that's not going to happen. How dare you? He is only 12. He is too young. Note, my family aren't really famous, but people know us as we are constantly donating a lot of money to help our park and things like that. Dad, don't try and impress people by saying you are a friend when you don't even know my son's age. Nice dad. Entitled mom, stop. You always do this, and baby, be grateful or don't take it at all. Baby and entitled mom, fine. They storm out of the house. Nice dad. Sorry about that. As he hands me 40 pounds. Me, it's okay and thank you. We cut contact with the entitled mom and baby, but my dad still goes to the pub sometimes with nice dad. No, I'm not the manager. So this was a few years ago, so the details are a little fuzzy. Backstory before we start. I'm a male with a shaved head and a neat goatee. I was working overnights at a hotel, and my uniform was a suit and tie. I have a gold name tag with my name and no logo. I needed to pick up a few things at Walgreens after work, and being right across the street, I'm a regular there, and I'm on a first-name basis with a few of the employees. Cast includes, not real names. We've got me, we've got Bob, the cashier, Maria, actual manager, and the Karen. I walk in at about 10 a.m. and immediately pass by Bob and Maria with the usual, "Morning Maria, morning Bob, busy morning?" Just a little small talk since I'm there enough and they can vent to me, being a regular. I notice it's a little busy, so I leave them to work and go to the food section to grab a snack and see that a guest has pulled all of the cans of something off the shelf. Being a decent human being, I put them back, and Karen asks where the paper towels were, and I tell her where they are. Again, being there nearly every day, and they were busy. I get what I need and go up to the register. Karen is in front of me and in the middle of a screaming match with Bob and Maria. Karen, get the manager, now! There are no cans that will expire next month. They are all expiring this month. Maria, yes ma'am, I am the manager. I'm very sorry, but the shipment comes in tomorrow, and we can even set some aside for you. Stop lying, you stupid jerk. I was just talking to the manager. It is at this point Karen turns to see me and with a polite, "Excuse me, sir, can you give me a discount on this can?" Me, ma'am, I don't work here. I'm just shopping. You were putting cans away. Don't lie to me. Now give me a discount. Bob, ma'am, he is a guest. Karen proceeded to take her can, threw it hard at me. It misses, and shows us her favorite finger as she yells and storms out of the store. The cops were called since there was destruction of property, and the funny part of this story is the cops show up and immediately come up to me thinking I'm the manager. Ended up taking my information, and Maria paid for my $2 bag of chips. Still went there every single day, and I was always greeted with a, "Hey boss man," every time I went in. My Russian friend versus Karen. So I currently work at a McDonald's as I am an entitled young person. You'll figure out why I quoted that. This McDonald's is across from a Walmart, and today I decided to take a shift for someone. A good solid 8-hour shift actually. Anyway, after work I decided to get some food for dinner and snacks for later at the Walmart. Everything is fine and dandy, and everyone seemed to be in a good mood. Since I just got out of work, I was still in my uniform. Both our McDonald's uniforms and Walmart uniforms use pretty much the same pants, or at least everyone in my Walmart uses the same pants as us at McDonald's here. The pants are just some black basic pants that are made of polyester and some other material, so they look nice. It was also a rainy day, so everyone was wearing sweaters and whatnot because it wasn't ideal to go outside in this weather. After grabbing dinner and snacks, I leave the store to go meet a really close friend who was waiting to pick me up outside. I load the snacks into the back of my car, and my friend asked me if I got my cousin a birthday present because it was his birthday yesterday. Unfortunately, I forgot, so I run in and grab a $50 Xbox gift card for him. Coming back out, I hear someone say, "Hey, you!" And even though it was rainy and windy, I could tell it was a snobby directed tone, a Karen tone. I continue walking to the car, and at this point I hear a click of her high heels and the voice again, just a lot louder, and, unfortunately, the voice got louder too. This Karen was behind me and calling for me. She gets right up in my face and in a really violent tone said, "Excuse me, you better put my cart away, you little jerk." I reply with a shy and quiet, "I don't work here." This is mainly because I'm small and short and petite, and this Karen is yelling at me. I also don't have good social skills. The Karen blurps out another, "Put my cart away, Tiny." Yeah, I know. I was called Tiny by a Karen. Thank God my friend was watching because she got out of the car and was like, "She doesn't work at Walmart." The Karen scoffs and replies back, "He looks like he does. Besides, he's a young person. He can go put that cart away anyway." My friend walked over to this Karen and was like, "He is a she and she doesn't work here. She's also not your slave, regardless of their age or anything." My friend raises her voice way higher than this Karen who's bickering on how hard it is to push a cart away. Ironic, I know. And screams out, "You better take your stupid, lousy, no good, overprivileged self over there to that cart return yourself, and you're going to put it there." The Karen just shut up and put the cart away. The Karen was about to open her mouth and say something, but my friend just screamed something at her, which basically meant, "Go forget yourself," or something like that in Russian. That was that. My friend told me she was getting the last word in regardless. We drove off and went home to eat dinner and hang out. Entitled Mother Wants to Sue Therapist for Saving Her Kid's Life. The year is 2017. I was on therapy for a lot of problems. My many and varied problems had also caused me a very deep depression, and despite 10 years of therapy, I was unable to have any improvement. My psychologist, an adorable woman whom I had only seen for a year, asked me to have a session with my mother too. She wasn't happy about it, but somehow the psychologist managed to convince her. This is how the session went. For this post, my fictitious names will be Bob for the name of choice and Rose for my birth name. Therapist: "Hi Bob, how are you feeling?" Me: "I'm okay, thank you." Entitled Mom: "Good evening. Why did you ask me to come here today?" Therapist: "Madam, your son tried to hurt himself a few days ago. I need to talk about it with you." Entitled Mom: "My daughter is fine, as you can see." Therapist: "Madam, people do not attempt things like this as a hobby. Your son is suffering from a very evident discomfort for all to see." "Well, I don't see any discomfort except what you're putting in her head." Therapist: "Excuse me?" "She was a very normal person before coming here, and now she's babbling all this nonsense that you put in her head." Me: "Mom, actually, I came to her for exactly this reason, and not the other way around." "No, you came here because you said someone hurt you." Therapist: "It's not a matter of saying it, it's true." "However..." Therapist: "In any case, that's not why I asked you to come here today." Entitled Mom: "But is it true or not that you told my daughter that she should stay away from me?" Therapist: "I repeat, that's not the subject." "Is it true or not?" Therapist: "Yes, that's true. And this exact behavior is the reason. You understand that your son has attempted..." "How dare you tell my daughter to stay away from me?" Me: "Son." Entitled Mom: "Rose, shut up." Me: "My name is Bob, Mom." "Bob! See what she says? I will sue you. It was you who put those things in her head. She's my daughter." Therapist: "Madam, your son 2 days ago tried to hurt himself. May I ask you why you're talking to me about matters that have nothing to do with that? Aren't you worried about what he did?" "I've seen her search history on the internet. Do you have any idea what she has been looking at?" Therapist: "Madam..." "What? I'm sick of dealing with you freaks." Therapist: "I insist on pointing out that your son needs help right now." "So what? You want her to leave home and pretend to be something she's not? I'm entitled to talk about this very subject when I want to." Me: "I don't pretend, Mom. That's what life is like. If you listened instead of just screaming..." "Shut up, Rose, shut up. I don't care if this jerk has convinced you that you can be something you're not. You are and will always be a woman." I'm about to cry, so I leave the room. Therapist: "How can you say you don't care when he's going through this?" "Is she alive?" "Yes. So what do you want from me?" Having left, I no longer heard the rest of the conversation, but my mother proceeded with pressing charges and still hates that therapist. Principal attempts to teach student manners. Special Ops Soldier. This story goes back more than a few years, and I still tell it to people at parties to this day. Let me set the scene. I graduated from high school and college. Even though I was 24, I had a very young-looking face and was often carded at bars and liquor stores. I got married and joined the U.S. Army. After going through Special Ops training to include airborne school, I was tasked with a recruiting duty that we had to go to high schools and see if we could inspire young men and women to join the military. Of course, this isn't allowed anymore. I told you that this was more than a few years ago. 1990s. I was pushing 28. Going to high schools was something that we did a few times a week while on the recurring duty. The local Army recruiter would request our group to volunteer some soldiers that were not deployed or on assignment and accompany them to the high school and set up displays and such. This was always from a large box truck and a small transport bus. Well, here are the actors in this disaster. We've got the stupid teacher. We've got the principal. We've got me, staff sergeant in the Army. We've got Army Recruiter 1 and Army Recruiter 2. So we got up at 0:30 and packed the truck, packed our uniforms in the bus, and proceeded to grab chow and head to designated high school. We talked and chatted and drank our coffee and waited for the 90-minute drive to the high school to be over. We arrived, and since we were going to be doing work, we weren't allowed to be in dress uniform with beret and all, so they allowed us to be in jeans and sweatshirts. Now I remind you that I am young, in shape, short hair, clean-shaven, and with a young baby face, even at the ripe old age of 28. After the displays were put together, the extension cords taped down, and we were hanging out waiting for our presentation. Some of us went back to the bus to grab some coffee, and I stepped in front of the box truck to have a smoke. Hey, it was the 90s and it was the time. Smoking and coffee was the vibe in the military back then. Now this box truck was parked out back of the high school and was considered a loading area. So I was in front of the box truck having a cigarette and leaning against the front of the truck. That's when I heard it. Stupid teacher. Are you comfortable? Me. Yes, ma'am. Got everything you need? Yes, ma'am. Don't you think you should take yourself back into the school right now? Me. What? Oh, you've lost your manners all of a sudden? Get your butt back inside that school right now. Yelling in a high tone that would have upset every dog in the country. Me. Ma'am, I'm not. Oh, yes, you are. Me. Ma'am, I'm trying to explain. If you will just. Stupid teacher cuts me off and grabs my arm. I said march, young man, before you regret it. Me. Get your hands off me. You should know better. Pulling out of her grip. Fine, I'll get principal. And don't say I didn't warn you, you little jerk. I was shocked at her behavior. This wasn't a big school, maybe 800 kids in a rural area. So I proceeded to finish my cigarette and my coffee, and I heard footsteps and yelling. This was enough to get the attention of the military men and women in the bus and the kids running laps on the field and the kids inside the classrooms on that side of the building. I mean, I was wearing dog tags under my shirt and a wedding ring. Really? Stupid teacher. He's over there. Principal. Who the heck do you think you are? You think you can just come have a smoke and coffee and skip class? How would you like me to knock some sense into you, you arrogant jerk? Me, annoyed. Look, I tried to explain. Lady, I don't go to school here. I'm telling you the same thing. I don't go to school here. I'm here for. You're here to get an education. You want a butt kicking to go with that lesson today? Well, I had enough. If he wanted to teach me a lesson, fine. Me, I've had enough. You can buzz off and take her with you. You have no idea who I am, but I'd like to know who you think you are threatening people like this. I put my cigarette in my mouth and reached for my wallet. Me, I'll show you who I am, jerk. Principal smacks the cigarette out of my mouth and grazes my nose. He grabs my sweatshirt. Principal, I'll teach you some manners, you jerk. Boom, scream, thud, pop. The sound of gravel. Recruiter 1. Whoa, 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 stop, stop, stop. Recruiter 2. What are you doing? Principal, muffled groan as his face was in the ground. Recruiter 2. Principal, this is Staff Sergeant. He's part of our Special Forces recruiting team today. What on earth are you doing? Recruiter 1. Staff Sergeant, would you like to let Principal off the ground, please? Me. Sure, he's not going to do any more harm. Teacher looked like she had just seen a train wreck and still couldn't look away. Me. Hey, teacher, you might want to call an ambulance. He has a broken nose and a dislocated shoulder. He's going to need medical attention. Recruiters 1 and 2 were just stunned, not knowing what to do. By this time, it must have gotten around school. There were classrooms and windows on the back side of the school, as well as a gym class that was running laps around a field. Me. Should I get my uniform on or just chill on the bus? Recruiter 1. No, we need your appearance for this presentation. Me. Shrug. Okay. I got my uniform on while watching the EMTs put principal on a stretcher and take him away. I groomed myself up, put my beret on, and walked out of the bus. Went into the school and into the auditorium. Recruiter 1. So that is why we are here today, to explain your service opportunities and here to explain the Elite Forces training and perspective. I'd like to introduce Staff Sergeant. Thunderous applause and standing ovation. We were all a bit confused. Standing ovation? We thought it was for the beret. Come to find out, they were clapping because principal had been a jerk and roughed up students to shape them up. He had only been there 2 years and everyone hated him except for stupid teacher. Another teacher heard that principal had gotten his butt handed to him and told us it was the talk of the school, like taking out the bully on the playground. He said it made his day. He wasn't principal very much longer after that. He took medical time off and then left the school system to take a job at another school out of state. I heard from recruiters 1 and 2 that the next year, when they went to do their presentation, they asked who we were going to rough up this year. They had a math teacher that everyone disliked. This was in jest, only a joke. I still remember the look on principal's face as he thought he was picking on a student and grabbed a member of the U.S. Army Special Ops. It was a mix of confusion, fear, and the classic, "What the heck is this?" Then being put into the ambulance with his tail between his legs. I'm generally not a violent person. After being in the U.S. military for over 15 years, I would rather walk away than get physical. But that one incident, yeah, he had it coming. Karen got what she had coming. Characters. We've got me. We've got Ross, the big boss, the manager from the company/client. We've got Karen, the service manager, conveniently named Karen. We've got Greg, good guy Greg, my colleague, the one who messaged me today. Story. I was on a conference call with Ross, Greg, and some people from a different site. Me, Ross, and Greg were all sitting in a different location in the building. It was one of those meetings where you listen for an hour and only speak to say bye at the end. I had my noise-canceling headphones with microphone on, which had the company's logo on it. Ross gave it to me when I signed the contract with the company, as it was a leftover from the Christmas presents they all got. Suddenly, Karen yanks the headphones off my head and starts yelling. Karen, "Answer me instead of listening to music, you weasel!" I just sat there with my mouth open in shock, as I hadn't seen or heard her approaching me. Karen, "And who the heck did you steal these headphones from? They are for internals only." Me, But they're mine. Due to the initial shock, I couldn't find the words to explain I got transitioned to internal when she was on her month-long holiday in December, and clearly she didn't get the memo. Karen, "Stop lying to me, jerk. Consider yourself fired." Me, finding my composure back. "You can't fire me. I don't work for you. And even if I did, you have no right to talk to me like that." At this point, my phone beeped. I glanced at my screen and I saw a message from Greg. "You are not on mute. Ross and me can hear the whole thing." Karen, "You are a lying jerk, and stop looking at your phone when I'm talking to you." Me, "I don't work for you anymore, and if you keep talking to me like that, I will call security to have you removed." "Who the heck do you think?" She was interrupted by her own phone ringing, which apparently was a call from Ross. She answers her phone with all the fake jolliness she could muster after her tirade against me. But after that, all I heard her say was, "Oh, no, sir," and "Yes, sir." Maybe I have to note that Ross, my manager, was the most senior manager on our site and therefore also the country manager, who signed the contract with my old employer for which Karen worked. This was the only time in my life I saw someone age 20 years in a mere 15 seconds. Her face shifted from red to white as if someone flipped a light switch. She hung up and left without saying another word to me. Later, I found out people had complained about her behavior before, but now she was caught red-handed and my manager made sure her services were not needed anymore. She also got fired from my old employer as the company was their biggest contract and they couldn't afford to lose it due to Karen's actions. In some way, I have to thank her though, as I haven't had any problems with shutting down someone ever since that event. Entitled Mom will do anything to obtain her son's favorite newspaper. A few months ago, I worked as a paper boy. As the name suggests, my job was to deliver papers in the morning, usually from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. Prior to the event I'm about to describe, a woman had been standing outside her house to smoke at around halfway through my round, usually staring at me as I rode past on my bike. I had never seen this lady before. It's important to know that I was delivering paid papers, so there were specific houses to deliver to, instead of delivering to the entire road. On the morning of the event, I'd woken up as usual, dragged myself out of bed and onto my bike, picked up the papers, and started to deliver. Everything went as usual until I reached the woman I described earlier. This time, she approached me. "We've got Entitled Mom, we've got the kid, and we've got me." The Entitled Mom approaches me and my bike as I walk up to the house beside hers to deliver a paper. Entitled Mom: "Hey, you got any spare Daily Mails?" A British newspaper, tabloid. Me: "No, I've got the exact amount I need, no more." "Well, that sucks." Me: "I don't see how." "You don't suppose I could give you a couple quid and you could give me one?" Quid equals pounds, basically the equivalent of bucks in the US. Me: "I'd lose my job, no chance. You could always pop down to the newsagents to get one." "Don't you understand? I need one now. Newsagents is half an hour walk away." Me: "So? I'm not losing my job so you don't have to walk for half an hour." The Entitled Mom starts to get angry. "Listen, my son loves reading his mail," referencing to the Daily Mail newspaper I mentioned earlier. "My car's messed up and I can't be bothered to walk. All you have to do is give me one and you get 2 quid for free." Me: "Seeing as I get decent pay, above 15 pounds a week, I think that won't be necessary." Entitled Mom begins to walk towards my paper bag. Me: "Hey, back off." Entitled Mom is shouting now. "You've lost your chance at 2 quid. It was your choice and you threw it away." As with the rest of the street, she's woken up her son. She and I argue for around 30 seconds with nothing said of note until her son comes to the doorway. He looks around 4 years old, which is most definitely not a suitable age to be reading the Daily Mail at. Kid: "Mummy, where is my breakfast?" Entitled Mom, red-faced by now: "Go inside, now." Kid looks like he's about to cry and reluctantly trudges inside. Me: "Nice job." Entitled Mom: "Shut up." Me: "Have a pleasant morning." I cycle away and finish my deliveries, around 10 minutes behind my usual time. I know usually people want some sort of righteous ending or she gets arrested or sued for X amount of money, but literally nothing happened after this. All I got was a bad taste in my mouth for the rest of the day, and all she got was an irritated kid at 6 a.m., which she most likely deserved. Karen mistook me as an idiot. Okay, so in this story I'll give you some background. I'm 18. My brother-in-law is the owner of the hotel in this story. There's a restaurant in the hotel too. This hotel is located in Kerala, India, and this was a tourist season, so the place was full of tourists, including Americans. Characters: we've got Karen, we've got my brother-in-law, we've got the general manager, we've got me, and we've got the waiter. My brother-in-law and manager were having breakfast in the restaurant. Sitting next to us is Karen, tanned, a tourist, and also not a resident of the hotel, obviously only there for a meal. My brother-in-law gets up from the table to go do a few things outside the hotel, but would be back in half an hour. General manager joins him. This means that I'm the next person of authority in the hotel. As waiter hands Karen the check, she takes one look at it, and this is how it went. Karen: "I know the owner. He said that the food is free for me." Waiter: "I'm sorry, ma'am, but we would require some confirmation from him for you to get a discount." Karen: "I told you, I know the owner." Waiter: "How, ma'am? Are you his friend or relative?" "I'm his cousin." Now, I obviously had to step in, as she wasn't. We had no Americans in his side of the family, even half Americans, so I'm now sure she was lying. Me: "I'm sorry, is there a problem?" Waiter: "Ma'am, she's claiming she knows the owner here." Karen: "Why is a teenager actually even talking to me? Do you work here? I demand to see the general manager. Me. I do work here, but as I stop myself because I want to see how this plays out. Waiter. I'm sorry, ma'am. The general manager has stepped outside for some time. I'm calling the owner. You're going to be fired. She's now shouting a bit. My brother-in-law's phone is still on our table, and so I keep an eye on it to see if it was ringing. She's now speaking into the phone, pretending to speak to the person. She turns off her phone, turns to us, and says to waiter and me, "You're fired, and you too," pointing at me. Me. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to pay and leave, or I'll call the cops. How dare you? Who do you think you are? Me. I'm the owner's sister-in-law. Karen. What? Me. Pay the bill and leave. She still refused and called me names. Got the hotel security to kick her out and get the money out of her. Turns out she pulled this at other hotels and restaurants too. Karen tries to kick my nephew out of his house. A little bit of backstory. My nephew, let's call him A, is currently engaged to his girlfriend of 4 years. Let's call her B. A few months back, she found out she was pregnant and she's due July 19th for a boy. I've never seen my nephew so happy, and his fiancée is a wonderful woman, and they plan to get married, but are taking it slow and wanting to have the baby and let B finish up college, as she only has one more semester to go. Anyway, apparently B's mother is a nightmare. Unfortunately, she hates A. She wanted her daughter to marry a doctor or a lawyer, basically someone with money, and my nephew, who is a manager with city maintenance, just isn't good enough. And when she learned her daughter was pregnant, practically disowned her outright. That didn't last long, as she needed B to babysit her 4 other siblings so her mom could go out partying and drinking as she always did. She used B as practically her slave. B cooked, cleaned, babysat, and took care of everything so her mom wouldn't have to lift a finger. Now that B is getting closer to her delivery date, she can't do everything her mom is asking of her, and she had recently moved into A's apartment. They got a place together so they can set up the nursery and such and start planning their life. B's mom went ballistic on her, screaming and yelling at the top of her lungs how she can't just abandon her and her siblings like this. Her mom didn't care about her. Honestly, I think what she cared about is that she was losing her cook, maid, and babysitter. B did all these things for free and knew it was all going to stop as soon as B had her baby. B tried to tell her that she would happily visit her mom and her brothers and sisters could visit anytime they wanted, but of course, that wasn't what she wanted. She wanted her slave back, and that simply wasn't going to happen. Recently, B woke up with some minor bleeding and was rushed to the hospital, and due to the lockdown, A wasn't allowed to see her when she was being treated. Everything is okay, by the way. B's mom showed up and was screaming and throwing a tantrum since she could not see my baby. No one could see her. They are in lockdown right now, and it's a risk they will not take. A had talked her down on the phone and offered her that option, but it simply wasn't good enough. She was told to calm down or she would have to leave, so she behaved herself. B apparently needed to be kept overnight for observation to make sure everything was okay, and A wasn't about to go home for the night. B insisted he go home and not just sit around at the hospital. When the mother-in-law started screaming again how she couldn't leave B all alone like this and she lived too far away. She did live almost 2 to 3 hours, not sure exactly. Well, even though she has been nothing but unkind, my nephew offered her their spare bedroom. It was set up a little like a nursery, but they had an inflatable mattress, and it would be fine for her to stay with him so she would be close by. She initially agreed, but apparently when they arrived home, she kept on staring at my nephew, like expecting something, and as he tells it, this is how the conversation went. "What are you waiting for?" she asked, apparently very snobby. "What do you mean? I'm about to call B if you want to join for a FaceTime talk," he said. "I mean, what are you still doing here? You need to leave if I'm staying here. I don't want you here," she snapped. "Listen, I offered you a place to stay while B is in the hospital, but this is my apartment, and I'm not going anywhere. You can stay here if you like, but you can't expect me to leave just because you're here." He couldn't believe this lady wanted him to leave. "Just get out of here right now. I have every right to be here and you don't. She's my daughter, and you have ruined her life," she screamed. "That's it. Get out of my apartment right now. You have no right to say such horrible things to me. We are in love, and we are getting married. We're having a son, and nothing you do or say can change that. And regardless of everything, you only have a right to stay here under my invitation, as this is my place. You can find a hotel for all I care. Now get out, or do I need to call the police?" Apparently, he was firm. He had always tried to be nice to her for B's sake, but he was apparently stressed and worried with her in the hospital and didn't feel like being her punching bag that night of all nights. She left, saying a few things about this apartment being disgusting and she couldn't sleep there anyway, and got a hotel as far as A knew. He wasn't sure, because when B was discharged, she was nowhere in sight, and B tried calling her but got no answer. We guess she went out and got drunk somewhere, but we're sure she will call wanting B to come back home. B has a new home now and is starting her life, and I hope her mom will realize that she will lose her if she doesn't shape up. I was earlier considering myself lucky that aside from my sister's moments of entitlement, it's mostly just selfishness, and as bad as she is nothing compared to this woman. We are inheriting a very entitled parent through marriage. Oh joy. You want to speak to the supervisor? While in college, I worked as the escalated transfer supervisor at a call center for a large Canadian pizza chain. One New Year's Eve, it was so busy in the call center that the customer service department started taking orders to ease the traffic, myself included. Suddenly, I get connected with Karen. Before I even have a chance to speak, she's already irate and rude. Karen: "Why the heck was I on hold for 30 minutes? Me: "I apologize for the wait, but it's New Year's Eve and everyone in the country is ordering pizza." Karen: "That is unacceptable. I demand to speak to a customer service agent." Me: "I can transfer you if you'd like, but I am in the customer service department and can talk to you about your complaint." "Like heck you are. Transfer me to customer service immediately." Me: "Okay, but due to the busy day, you may be on hold for a while." "I said now." So I added her to my customer service queue, which was 20 calls deep. After 30 minutes, she's up. Me: "Hi, you've reached our company customer service. My name is Superfla. How may I help you?" Karen yelling: "I was on hold for 30 minutes waiting. Hold on, wasn't I just speaking to you?" Me: "Yes, me." Karen still yelling: "This is outrageous. I insist on speaking to the manager." Me: "Absolutely, please hold." Add her to my queue once again. Now keep in mind that the escalated transfer supervisor, me, is the final stage of customer service, and I hold all the power. I continue to take orders for another 25 minutes or so, then pick up Karen's call. Me: "Hi there, you've reached Superfla. I believe you asked to speak to a manager. How can I help?" Karen in a desperate tone: "You're the manager too?" Me: "Yes, me. You see, because it is so busy, I've been taking calls all day to ease the traffic and make things run a little quicker." Karen: "Oh my goodness, I've been waiting for over an hour." Me: "I did tell you that I could help when I took your initial call." "You did." Me: "Would you like me to take your order now?" "Yes." It was so satisfying to let all the air out of her like that. Entitled mom wants my sister fired because the fryer is out of order. This isn't my story, but one my sister told me that happened to her. My sister is 17 and is working her first job at Sesame Place. This was her third day on the job, and she had completed her work training the day before. She's a hostess at one of the restaurants inside the park. Sometimes she will do her hostess job, and other times she will go into the kitchen to bake funnel cakes and stuff like that. She wants her college major to be culinary. This is the cast of the story. Entitled Mom, we've got Polite Kid, we've got Poor Dad, we've got My Sister, we've got Clumsy Manager, and Cashier. The fryer that day used to make funnel cake went out of order, while Polite Kid placed his, just so you know. Also, this isn't a 0 to 100 stereotype story, as the woman was already ticked off before walking into the restaurant. Polite Kid arrives to the counter, and the following dialogue occurs. "Hi, can I please have 2 medium cakes, a small Sprite, and a large funnel cake?" Cashier: "Yes, buddy, I'll get that for you now. That will be this much." I don't know the amount. "Okay, here's my mommy's card." Polite Kid puts pin in card reader. Polite Kid gets all 3 drinks and is told that my sister will bring them the cake in about 5 minutes. Right after the order is placed, the fryer used to make the funnel cake breaks, as in the tube that takes the used oil out of the fryer got clogged and they had to unclog it. My sister went out to polite kids' table to let them know what had happened. Sister: Hi, I just came to let you know that the funnel cake will be a bit late because of some issues with the fryer. If you would like, I could give you 3 a free refill while you wait. Poor Dad: Sounds good. As long as we get our cake, then you… Surprise, surprise. Entitled Mom turns on ghetto mode.
What you mean we ain't getting our cake? Give me my money then if we ain't gonna get it.
Polite Dad: Yo, babe, she said that it's coming a little late. Not that we aren't getting it.
I said give me my dang money now, or I'll get your jerk butt fired. Now, where's your boss at? You gone?
Mind you, this is my sister's first day on the floor and never worked a job before, so she didn't know how to react, and she was tearing up and apologizing to them over and over again and getting 2 different reactions, one from each parent. Luckily, the manager hears the commotion and storms out to the dining floor and slams a $10 bill on the table. Here's your refund. Now get the heck out.
I paid?
Amount less than $10.
For the cake. Why are you giving me more?
So you can shut up and leave. You mess up every employee's day that works in this restaurant, but you ain't messing with my new employees. Look at her. You ruined her day with your BS. You gone. Security will show you the door to leave the park. You're not welcome back here anymore. The manager wasn't taking any crap today. Within 5 minutes, they showed up and escorted the family out of the park. 2 days later, poor Dad calls my sister's restaurant to apologize for his wife's behavior, how the park was supposed to be polite kids present for moving on from kindergarten to 1st grade. He also joked about if the funnel cake was ready yet. Entitled parent trespasses on our property after dark and gets bitten by our German Shepherd. I had a very large, very protective German Shepherd named Kaiser. We never trained him to be protective, but he was naturally so. We had a fence around our entire home and yard, with the exception of the side door off the kitchen. The fence stopped on either side of the doors. I had a "Beware of dog, no trespassing" sign every 15 feet along our fence line. People who knew us knew to come around to the side door. This system worked beautifully for 10 years. We've got our entitled person, we've got myself, and we've got our Karen. I should mention that entitled person was friends with my brother. He had been to our home on a few occasions, but always with my brother. Kaiser loved my brother, so Kaiser was okay with entitled person being there. My son had a for sale sign on his truck, and his phone number was listed as well. He had had several inquiries, all by phone. Because those people can read, apparently entitled person could not. I was home alone one night. I should mention we had 5 dogs. Kaiser was outside. All 4 other dogs were in the house, being lazy and sleeping in various spots. It was dark outside, and all the lights in my home were off, but my bedroom light towards the back of the house. It looked as if no one was home. This is important later. About 6:30 p.m., my phone rings. I see Karen's number pop up. I only have her number because her husband, who is a nice guy, is our mechanic. Me: Hello? Karen:
Your dog bit someone.
Her voice was a highly judgmental in an almost Karen-like manner. I jump up in a panic to see if somehow my dog got out of our fenced yard. Gate is latched and locked. I see Kaiser laying on the porch. He looks sleepy and relaxed and wags his tail at me and lays back down. My sweet baby boy, watching over us like always. I am relieved to see him inside the yard and gate still closed. Me: What? How? All my dogs are home. I don't understand. Karen:
No.
She literally starts every sentence with
Entitled person went to your house to talk to your son about buying the truck, and Kaiser jumped up and bit him. His hand is torn to shreds.
Me: Why was entitled person even trying to come in my yard? I have "Beware of dog, no trespassing" signs everywhere. Plus, my gate is locked. This makes no sense. Karen:
I don't know, but his hand is pretty bad. He wants to know if your dog has all his shots.
Me: Does entitled person have all his shots? I let her know I have insurance, and if entitled person needs to see a doctor, he should go ahead, but I would also be reporting the dog bite and the trespassing onto my property. I have to for the sake of my insurance company. At this point, I am more than a little annoyed. Dog bites are serious accusations. Karen.
He doesn't want to go to a doctor. That's why he came to me.
She used to work for a vet.
I've cleaned his hand and wrapped it up. We just want to make sure Kaiser had all his shots.
Okay, whatever. I reassured them that he was up to date on all of his shots and could show his records if needed. I saw Entitled Person a few days later, and his hand was a gauze-wrapped mess. I asked him how he was doing and asked him what on earth possessed him to come to my house after dark when I have all the signs up warning of an aggressive dog and not to trespass. Entitled Person. Well, I wanted to talk to your son about his truck. I've been to your house with your brother. Kaiser liked me, okay? I thought it would be okay. I tried to open your gate, but it was locked. So I reached inside to see if I could unlock it, and Kaiser came out of nowhere and bit me. He said he never heard Kaiser and never saw him. He just felt the bite. I don't know if he is an entitled person for assuming he did not have to follow our clear warning signs that have been on our fence for 10 years that he sees every time he drives past our house, or if he is just a stupid person. My dog was doing his job, protecting his family. Keep in mind, this man is drunk by 10 a.m. I don't believe I've ever seen him sober. Nothing more came of this situation. Entitled Person stayed clear of us after that. He did eventually buy my son's truck, but his check bounced, so we took it back. The guy really is an idiot. Rest in peace, Kaiser, you brave, precious, loving, protective beast of a dog. You saved us so many times. Thank you for reading. Unfortunately, this kind of thing happens all the time. People assume that they're going to be safe around an animal, and they end up getting hurt. This is why Mr. Reddit says to never pet an animal without its owner's permission, and stay out of people's yards as well. Have you ever had a bad experience with someone's pet? If so, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. New owner wants us to carry garbage bags through a crowded restaurant. Okay, you're the boss. This is another story about my bartending days, and I'll preface by saying, even though it got my point across, not then, nor do I now feel good about what happened here. So, slight backstory. I was working as a bar manager in a student pub. The new owner and I hated each other. It was actually scary just how deep that hatred ran. However, I was his fastest bartender and simply too popular among the other employees to just fire. So instead, he would always belittle me in front of clients or other staff members and find ways to make my job more insufferable. I'm guessing in hopes that I would simply quit. So the bar was at the front of the store. The exit was right by the front entrance, which led through a caged-off alley, which led to the alley where we dumped all the garbage from the bar and restaurant. We had always carried the garbage out that way. It was easy, effective, and we didn't have to walk through the restaurant carrying garbage bags. So obviously, the new owner made the rational decision to start locking that way off and forbidding us from using it. This meant we now had to walk through the restaurant where people were eating, up a mini stairwell, and through the kitchen. I don't even know how many health and safety regulations this was violating. I had protested this at several staff meetings, explaining to him that us not being allowed to go that way doubled the trip, which left the bar a man short for double the time. It was also double the time for the bags to tear, considering they were usually filled with heavy and sometimes broken bottles, and mostly it was just unsanitary walking through the restaurant and kitchen with bags that were usually dripping fluids. So obviously, he refused and said we will continue doing it his way. Cut forward a few nights later, and the place was packed, likely to overcapacity. But for in case it wasn't clear, safety concerns weren't much of a priority for this jerk. I should also point out that the bar only had one garbage bin, which had filled up several beer bottles ago. The other bartenders had been ignoring it because if you're carrying out garbage bags, then you're not serving customers, and if you're not serving customers, you're not making tips. So I decided to take this task upon myself and to venture out of the bar. I felt like Frodo carrying the ring to Mordor. As I mentioned, the bag was already over its recommended weight capacity, so I had to get through this crowd fast because I could feel it was going to tear quickly. Some of the glass had broken into the bag too, and had started cutting into me as I tried carrying the bag from the bottom to keep it from tearing open, all the while fighting my way through a crowd of drunk students. I finally made it to the mini stairwell by the kitchen, where the drunk owner and a random drunk girl were sitting on the stairs. The bag was now super close to tearing, and my hands had been cut by the glass. I tried getting the stupid boss's attention, begging him to move so I could get past. The boss ignored me. I'll say that the first time it was entirely possible that he may not have heard me over the crowd and the loud music, so I tried again. This time he looked straight at me and then continued to ignore me anyway. Cue the malicious compliance as I lifted the bag right over him and the girl, just for it to tear open right above them and everything inside poured out onto them. I felt bad for the girl. She had not deserved this. As for the owner, forget him. The kitchen staff had heard the crash and screams and ran out to clean the mess. I tried helping, but they told me to go back to the bar. A few seconds later, the owner came storming into the bar, screaming at me and asking me what possessed me to try and lift a garbage bag over the head of him and a customer. I innocently said that I wouldn't have had to do so if he had just let me through the alley. The owner gave me the biggest death glare I had ever gotten, then took the alley key off of his keyring, threw it at me, and stormed out of the bar. So even though I had been forced to cover a girl in glass to get my point across, I still walked out of this battle victorious. Just to add, this happened back in 2008, and I haven't bartended since 2009. I just enjoy recalling these stories because of how absurd that place was. But unfortunately, I won't be able to use any of the advice anymore on how I could rectify this. For those of you upset about me endangering her, I agree. I think I literally said that in the first sentence of this story that I felt bad about it, and I still do to this day. But she wasn't injured. Neither was my stupid boss, unfortunately. And this was 12 years ago. I was a teenager, and we all did things as teenagers that we weren't proud of. I'm gonna give you a list of why I say this was the worst boss I ever had, and why I later just really stopped caring and became the kind of employee that nightmares are made of. He would constantly forget my name, even though we shared the same first name. Although I was the bar manager, he would give his girlfriend and friends shifts above me and pay them higher wages. In our first December, he had put himself on managing shift and put me on as a waiter/barman. He would show up and say, "You can see I was here," then leave me alone to run the place for 18 hours, but refused to pay me manager wages because he had to come in. I had an accident, not at work, where I cut off a piece of my toe. This had, temporarily, halted my bartending career as I was on crutches. About a week later, the boss begged me to come manage the shop for him, promising I wouldn't have to do anything else other than office work. This was the night before the university reopened, and he had only put one waiter and barman on shift. I ended up having to waiter on crutches while the boss rejected all my phone calls. He showed up 3 hours later, drunk, and berated me for the fact that the shop wasn't under control. He took all the waiters and bartenders to a music festival, leaving me behind to run the shop alone, never taking into account that the festival was ending that day, so all the students were returning and we had an all-you-can-eat pizza special running. I'll let you use your imagination on that one. After a massive party the night before, he told all the cleaners they could take the morning off and left me alone on shift to get the entire place cleaned up between 9 and 11. The place was wrecked. When I didn't finish in time, he yelled at me, stormed out of the shop, and didn't return again for the rest of the day. Have you ever dealt with a horrible boss? Sometimes people in positions of power have a lot of problems going on in their lives, and they can take it out on their employees, which is not fair to the employee whatsoever. Please let me know if you've ever had any experiences like this in the comments below. Update. My sister thinks $55 covers 2 months of babysitting. I spoke first to brother-in-law, who had no idea that she wasn't paying me, so he was the one to pay me back for the weeks I had already done. He wasn't very happy with my sister. I didn't watch them for this last week. I did talk to my sister first off about how disrespectful that was to make a deal and then go back on that deal, especially considering how ill-behaved her kids are. My sister told me that she didn't think it was a big deal because I was getting unemployment, and she assumed that because some people were getting unemployment and an additional $600 a week, that it didn't make any sense to pay extra to people on unemployment and not those working. So I was making bank either way. She assumed wrong. I was not getting $600 extra a week. I wasn't on unemployment, but it was a part of what happened with my former employer before I went to work for myself, that they're paying for my unemployment for their many labor law violations. My unemployment through them is almost up anyways. Either way, It was odd for her to assume I was making $900 a week off unemployment without asking me if I was. She and her brother-in-law had to switch around their shifts to watch their kids this week since I wouldn't show up. Brother-in-law said he'd pay me directly if she wasn't going to, and that's when it became a three-way conversation. I let them know that their kids' behavior is really unacceptable, even for behaviorally challenged kids, which if they were, they'd be forced to have a child care provider licensed for dealing with it. That's not the case with their kids. They just let them get away with too much. Ironically, last week I saw a hot binge episode with a mother who had a kid who apparently told the babysitter to put him in his room, put up the gate if she were to not be in the room with him for any reason so he couldn't get out. And this kid was 10, and it got me thinking of my nephews. So I told them they need to install more security measures against the kids. A high-raised lock that the monkey can't reach, so he can't be running out the door. Removing anything that can be used as a weapon, possibly a gate to lock one up in the room if they're misbehaving where there's nothing in there for them to break. I'm not watching them this week either, but I told them I might reconsider if something can be done to make watching them not like being a security guard at a prison. My sister didn't like my suggesting that they need to change their parenting, but my brother-in-law actually agreed. They had their argument, and he said this is why they can't get a babysitter or daycare for them anymore. They're out of control. Definitely knew that. And that they just keep coddling them through it. Definitely knew my sister was doing that. So there's a possibility I might watch them next week, if they have some sort of way to mitigate their behaviors that could actually work. But that's not a yes yet. They would need these ways to start disciplining their kids either way, or they'll just be releasing awful teens into the world. What would you do if you were in this situation? Would you continue babysitting these kids even though they're so difficult to deal with? How about if you were the parents? Situations like this can take a real toll on everyone in the family. Sweet revenge on my landlord. I live in an expensive part of the United States. To live in a 500 square foot cottage, it cost me $2,100. Upon moving in, the 70-year-old landlady gave me the impression that the space would be a private sanctuary. She failed to mention that from the moment I moved in, she would start doing loud, invasive, and extensive work on my property. To give you a little idea of the space, there's a 3-bedroom house next door, and then there's my place, a separate unit with its own yard. Attached is yet another unit that has been under construction. The landlady told me she planned on building a dance studio. She failed to mention that she would be building this when I signed the lease. Originally, the space was a 2-bedroom, but she built a closet separating the unit and turned it into a small 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom with a tiny kitchen with a living space. It's expensive, but hey, it's by the beach, secluded, and I thought I would have privacy. Boy, was I wrong. The landlady and her workers are here every single day from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m., sometimes later, just generally when it gets dark outside. She has an unlicensed contractor working from 3 to 8 p.m., because that's the only time I can get him since he has a day job. They are cutting stones, doing all kinds of landscaping, redoing different structural parts of the house, so loud hammering. But worst of all, the landlady is just always there. It felt like she was constantly watching me. I can't keep my windows open because there's someone always there. The last thing I want when I come home at 5 p.m. after a long day of work is to hear loud noises, let alone my landlady. I put up with this crap because I didn't want to create conflict, but then she left an eviction notice in my mailbox, informing me that she smelled Mary Jane and that I had to move out within 30 days. Despite me being frustrated with the situation, I am very busy with work and didn't want to deal with finding a new place. I just moved in 4 months prior, and it's a pain in the butt to find a place to live in this town. Luckily for me, she didn't realize that a just cause eviction law had recently passed in the city. I wrote her a lengthy letter, informing her that she doesn't have grounds kicking me out based on a smell and must pay me to move out. Here is the revenge. I went down to the city and informed them that I have a hunch she had illegally turned her unit into a duplex. They came to my place the next day. I let them inspect my residence and showed them the work she had been doing in the unit connected to mine. They said they would look into it. I got a response from her lawyer letting me know that she was in fact wrong and can't kick me out. She told my wife that she thinks I'm evil and that she had to go to therapy because of my letter. She also told her that the house got red tagged because I reported her to the city. So now she can't have a duplex anymore and is going to have to occupy the other half as a room. Say bye-bye to your plans on building a dance studio, jerk. She will also have to demolish all the work that she has already done because she didn't get permits, all because she was upset that she thought she smelled something in the house. I have never felt so good getting someone back using the city laws against them. Forget landlords that try and jip people out of a home because they are control freaks. I definitely taught her a lesson and am moving out at the end of the month because I don't want to live here anymore. What would you do if you were in this situation? You decide to rent this new place and it's basically your dream home. All of a sudden you've got so much noise outside, day in and day out, because the landlady's having all kinds of construction done. Do you think OP went overboard by going and getting the city involved? Let me know in the comments below. Clean up the trash. A few things first. I grew up around snakes. I've owned a few different breeds. I know how to handle snakes. I also know what breeds of snakes live in my area. Our cast. We've got me, we've got Karen, and we've got the kid. I was out at a park where the trail went around the lake, and the section of the trail I was walking on was about 10 feet wide. There was grass a little higher than my ankles and a few bush-like trees that grew over the water. This is important. I was looking around one of the trees when I hear someone clear their throat. I didn't think anything of it because allergies are super common this time of year. Karen. Excuse me? I look over and she's doing one of those bent over waves at me. Karen. Yeah, hi, excuse me. Me. Hi. I'm confused as to why she needs my attention. There is garbage all over the park. I'm trying to have a nice day out. Me. Yeah, I know, it sucks. I'm trying to have a nice day too. I'm dumber than a box of rocks, so I didn't understand why she was telling me, but I understand not wanting litter all over the park. Karen. So clean it up. Me. What? Clean it up. I was getting kind of upset because she was talking to me like I was stupid, not like a normal person. Me. Do it yourself, lady. What did you say to me? You heard me. But it's your job. At this point, I realized what was going on, so I just chuckled to myself. I turned back around to continue looking for snakes. She starts yelling at me, and because I have 3 younger siblings, I tune her out. It also helps I have a CAPD. I can hear some of it, however, and she was saying I was disrespectful, something about her son, and then starts yelling at me. Just as I'm about to move to the next spot, I see a black rat snake. I grab it and quickly stand up. It was about 2.5 to 3 feet long. Black rat snakes can grow up to 6 feet long. Karen had a delayed reaction. Maybe she thought it was a stick. It was like something out of a movie. She went from enraged to terrified. She started backing away, dragging her son with her. You're not very ladylike. Then the wild Karen fled back to her hovel. I wasn't trying to scare Karen on purpose. I just found what I was looking for. You should never purposely scare someone with any animal because the animal could get hurt. I think we've discovered it, the secret weapon to stop the Karens. Snakes. On a side note, are you afraid of snakes or do you think they're really cool? Please let me know. Karen tries to eat my friend's birthday cake. We've got me, we've got Karen, we've got Karen's brat, we've got my boyfriend, we've got friend who's having the birthday, friend 1, we've got random guy, we've got craft shop owner. So my friend's birthday is coming up, and I actually have a big friend group, so we decided to have friend 1's birthday party at a craft shop in the mall, then have a girls' night at my house since my older brother was away at college, so I had a spare room. Anyways, after school, my boyfriend and I go to the shop and make sure everything is set up. Since the shop does parties in a little room in the back, there's a window next to the birthday party door where you can kind of see in and watch what's happening, but it's really fuzzy through the window. The cake was in the fridge, our food was all ready, the crafts were out and ready, etc. So I call my friends over to bring friend 1 to the shop. So my friends say that I want her to come to the shop, etc., etc., so she comes. Everything's normal. We surprise her, do some crafts, eat food, and then finally it's cake time. Since I didn't have time to make it during the day, we bought it, and it cost a lot more than normal because we had it specially made. But it's 3-tiered with images of SpongeBob. Why not? And also pictures of my whole friend group. You can have edible pictures. We cut into the cake and start slicing it. It's a really big cake, but we're a really big group, and so there actually won't be any left over. The shop owner is helping random guy find some stuff. Then we hear a knock on the door. I think it's shop owner, so I open it. It's entitled Mom. She has the complete Karen look, and my friends are all watching her behind me. Excuse me, can I help you? I ask.
Yes, my son is hungry, and I happened to see you had a large cake. I would like a slice.
Oh no, I think. Here comes trouble. I'm sorry, but this is my friend's surprise party, and the cake is for us. There's a food court. We were in a mall, right next to this shop. Maybe you should get some food there. Entitled Mom didn't give up, and her son comes out behind her. I'm hungry, he moans. My friends and I are trying not to laugh. Her son looks 17 to 18 years old.
Listen here, girl. My son wants that cake, and I can't afford food right now. Would you let my son starve?
Now I'm getting mad. No, you listen here, Karen. I don't know you, and I have no obligation to give you food I bought with my own money. I'm sorry you're too lazy to get a job, but it isn't my problem. Go yell all you want, but yelling won't buy you more brain cells. Entitled Mom is mad, but then she stops.
Wait, how did you know my name is Karen?
My friends and I are cracking up now.
You little jerks! How dare you laugh?
Her yelling caught the attention of the shop owner and random guy. Please get out of my shop right now. The shop owner isn't joking around. You have no right to talk to these girls like that. Random guy didn't see my boyfriend, but my boyfriend was the only guy there. And you have every right to listen to the shop owner. Get out. Random guy is staring daggers at Entitled Mom, so she yells some more and drags her adult son out of the shop. Never feel like you have to share your birthday cake with Karen because you don't. Entitled brother gets me evicted. Or wannabe gangstar continues to be a dumb donkey and gets put down. Hello once again, Army. It's been 2 months since my last post, and it's a sort of continuation from that tale. As in, it's another story involving Chris, my entitled brother. I'll post a link to it at the end of the story, but it's not really important. What you need to know is Chris is my entitled sibling who sells sandwiches. If you've watched How I Met Your Mother, you'll understand. And if you don't, enjoy laughing and putting the pieces together. We've also got Miss L, my mother, a saint. And we've got me, side character in my own story. We've also got Tim and Brian, my little brothers, background characters. Now, Chris up there has done a lot of things since my last tale, but none of them were good enough for a proper entitled story. He's had his son over for the summer to dump him on other people cause he needed a break. Cause, as you know, being a parent is a punch clock job, like construction work or any office job. Don't worry, he's back in Chicago with his mom. He's not harmed in this story. Constantly invited random people over at all hours of the night, none of which we knew. And even when he wasn't around, people kept coming and asking for him. And nobody wanted him about. Got cops to investigate the premises for bad things he was doing. And he ate every scrap of food in the house, not even leaving a crumb for the mice that we, thankfully, didn't have in our hotel. Now, none of these are big enough for a proper story of their own, even combined. They all came and went the same way. Chris acts like a jack-a-mule, gets mom angry, she turns the other cheek and warns him to stop, and he stops and promises to learn his lesson. Then the next episode airs, and it happens all over again. With the set stage, the actual story. It was a late night when I got up and headed to the bathroom. I noticed Chris wasn't in his usual spot, but I didn't remember seeing him walk about, and by now, it was 4 in the morning. So I figured he was in the bathroom, but I needed to go, so I dragged myself to the bathroom and went to knock. The door flew open, and my eyes nearly bugged open when I saw Chris walk out. He was mumbling under his breath and made way for me to go in. There were sandwiches everywhere. The sink was stuffed with them, the floor painted with pieces, and he reeked of the stuff. Chris.
Can you hurry it up, Black? I'm busy. This is my secret laboratory.
More like laboratory. No response. He would at least sneer or laugh, but he was so stuffed that he didn't seem all there. I rolled my eyes, used the bathroom, and washed my hands in the shower. Once he went in and shut the door, I looked closer at the floor and saw a trail of sandwich material. Wherever he went, a mess had followed him. I was tired and didn't feel like picking a fight, so I just made my way to the bed and tried to get some sleep. But I was roused by the sound of my mom waking and trying to use the bathroom. I didn't hear much as I was drifting in and out of sleep, but she was let in, came out, and made her way back to her bed to get more sleep before she had to hurry for work. But before she drifted back to sleep, Mom,
This is the last straw, Chris. I'm not dealing with this anymore.
Ma, come on.
No, I mean it. I want you and your sandwiches out by the time I get back from work.
Chris then, from my perspective, was incoherent slurring, but my mom later told me, he said,
Man, I don't care. I don't care about anything. I'm out on the grind, making my money.
Yes, that's why you're always broke. Mom.
Yeah? Well, you can make it somewhere else, because you can't stay here anymore.
Chris. Chris then collected his stuff and shuffled out the door, even slamming it. But I didn't care, and neither did my mother. We just went on about our day. And what a day it was, without hearing Chris screech on his phone or without catching him going through someone's stuff. My mom soon came home, happy to see Chris gone, and even gave me the words I always wanted to hear.
If he comes back, do not let him in.
I was so happy I could cry. Then there was a knock on the door. Oh, dang it all. I knew something was wrong. My little brothers knew it too. And when the door opened, a man had handed us a note, had a chat outside, and then she came back inside. Mom.
Apparently, your brother was arrested. He was hanging around with his backpack open, and they caught him with tons of sandwiches, as well as other things he shouldn't have had.
Now, my brother already had a warrant for his arrest, so that's a potential 5 years. I was smiling like a madman.
And apparently, he told them that he stayed in our room.
My smile went a full 360, and it was clear to all of us that we were getting evicted. Immediately. We either had to be gone by tonight, or they had called the cops to escort us out. We had to pick up our belongings, a lot of them, and had to get moving. We were all thinking and saying the same thing. Chris was a good-for-nothing. It didn't help that we kept finding sandwiches around the place and had to dispose of them so we didn't leave any of his trays. Mom.
This is exactly why I didn't want him around. Because I knew he would do this. See this? If the cops came and kicked the door in, we'd all be lunch meat.
I'm typing all of this from my aunt's house. My mom is planning to not stay for long. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't still taking this as a blessing. Yeah, we all nearly got arrested. And yes, we're back to square one because of Chris. But he's gone now, for at least 10 years. And it seems my mother finally understands that he's a leech and has no intentions of changing. The entitled family who ruined our class trip, and the Karen who stood up for me. Hey, Mr. Reddit and the Re-Army. This is my very first post, but only the first of quite a few, because I've known a few entitled people in my life. My first language is English, and I like to think I can write pretty well, but roast me if my grammar or spelling is wrong. Also on mobile, yada yada. This is a long one, so buckle up for a wild ride. Our cast. We've got me. We've got Mrs. Huckleberry, our entitled mom in this story. The family was dubbed the Huckleberries because they were hillbillies. We've got entitled kid, the entitled brat girl, Mrs. Huckleberry's precious baby. We've got Huckleberry girl, the oldest daughter in my class that was Mrs. Huckleberry's stepdaughter. We've got art teacher, my awesome high school art teacher I'm still friends with to this day. And we've got Huckleberry grandma, Mrs. Huckleberry's mother, who for some reason joined us on the trip. We've got the chaperones, not all that involved, but still relevant. We've got Karen. It wouldn't be an entitled parent story without her, but don't be fooled. This is a unique Karen that only appears once every 10,000 Karens. The story. This happened about 4 years ago when I was still in high school, so it's not word for word anymore. I listen to Mr. Reddit every day, and it encouraged me to join Reddit because boy do I have quite a few stories about entitled people. My first encounter with an entitled mom and her bratty kid was on our international school trip to England and France. A bit of info about this family. Their eldest daughter was in my class. We were seniors at the time, so we were around 17 to 18 years old. The entitled mom was her stepmom, who treated her very poorly, such as giving her a crappy old phone while she brought her 12-year-old bratty daughter the newest iPhone. I didn't feel too bad for the older girl though. Let's call her Huckleberry Girl. She constantly lied about stuff. The little brat, let's call her the standard entitled kid, would constantly wander into our hallway, it was K-12 private school, and steal stuff from other students, giggling and running down the hall, waving it in the air, making them chase her down and cause them to be late to class. This happened to me quite often. The family ran this homemade jelly business, and being totally honest, their jelly and jam was actually pretty good. But I'd never pay for it, as I don't want to give these awful people business. The people on the trip had a code name for this family, known as the Huckleberries, since they were hillbillies who ran a very unclean little farm in the woods on the same street as my house. We spent the entire first half of the school year selling these people's jelly at farmers markets with the promise of them paying us to raise money for our trip. I got stung by plenty of bees and wasps that were attracted to the samples and got a lot less money than was expected. Come to find out, we were really funding their own family to go on the trip, since they took most of our promised pay for themselves. We didn't find this out until later. My mom even went to help out, and they said they'd pay her, and then refused to pay her at all after the fact and denied they said they would. Sorry for the long backstory. Anyway, we were about to go on the annual international school trip. Only 9th through 12th graders were allowed, and since it was my final year of school, I waited and decided to go my last year to countries I had always wanted to go. I was so excited to go to London and Paris. It was about a week before we left when we found out nearly the entire Huckleberry family were going. Mrs. Huckleberry, Huckleberry Girl, bratty little entitled kid who had canceled her own class trip to go on ours instead, even though she wasn't supposed to since she was only a 6th grader, and their grandma for some reason. Mrs. Huckleberry was this shortish but massive ball of morbidly obese lady who looked to be in her early 50s, who always had this snooty look like she was better than everyone. Yet the family appeared quite poor and lived in such filthy conditions. She came waddling into the school's office demanding to speak to the trip coordinator, our art teacher, who me and my friends were pretty close with. Our art teacher told us about the interaction. Mrs. Huckleberry:
"We all signed up for this trip, and we don't want to go to Paris. We want to go to Stonehenge instead. My little entitled kid has always wanted to see Stonehenge. Nobody wants to go to Paris anyway. Just cancel it and replace it with Stonehenge."
My art teacher: "Actually, most of the group does want to go to Paris. We'll be traveling with a group from another school who are going on the exact same itinerary. We can't just change it, as Stonehenge isn't on the itinerary at all. And besides, entitled kid isn't even supposed to be going on this trip. She'll have plenty of chances to see Stonehenge on future trips when she's in high school." But Mrs. Huckleberry wasn't having any of it. That's all I remember. But all of us going on the trip were infuriated to learn Mrs. Huckleberry had gone higher up and demanded they cancel Paris because her family didn't want to go, and they were paying group members and had Stonehenge added instead. The rest of the group was so angry, the art teacher cried because she had always wanted to go to Paris, and this swine of a lady had decided to turn this school trip into her family vacation, funded by students who had been informed they would be receiving most of the pay from the jelly sales. So the trip finally came. The Huckleberries were a problem from the beginning. First, entitled kid demanded a window seat, which she didn't get because she didn't specifically ask for one. So Mrs. Huckleberry waddled around demanding other students to give over their window seat tickets. A nicer guy in the group caved and gave entitled kid the ticket. The entire 8-hour flight from Atlanta to London, Mrs. Huckleberry was telling other passengers about their jelly business and that they sold their famous jelly to the Ritz Hotel. It was locally famous, but not anything more. Whether they actually sold it to the Ritz is unknown, but I doubt a famous fancy hotel would hire these dirty people who ran a filthy, unkempt farm to sell internationally to them. Their property looked like something you'd see on a hoarder show, complete with like 15 cats. Anyway, our first night we spent in an airport-side hotel in London, and of course, Most of the group went to play in the indoor pool area. My first encounter with Mrs. Huckleberry. I had just gotten out of the pool and was drying off, my phone to the side on the chair behind me. Suddenly, Entitled Kid splashes me. A bit frustrated, I say, "Hey, I'm drying off. Can you not splash me?" Entitled Kid just giggles and splashes me more. Water flies all over me and on my phone. "Hey, I said cut it out. My phone screen is cracked and I don't want water getting into the cracks." I turn to look at Mrs. Huckleberry, who is laughing with Entitled Kid and taps her nose like she's tapping the nose of a whiny infant. "No, no," Mrs. Huckleberry says in a sickly, playful tone. Entitled Kid giggles more as her nose is poked. I'm annoyed. I grab my phone and leave, still dripping wet as is my towel. Later in France, I had to spend the entire day in a village I wanted to explore watching these people's grandma because Mrs. Huckleberry had taken her 2 daughters and abandoned the old woman who was easily lost. So me, feeling bad for her because she wasn't nearly as bad as the others, decided to stay with her and guide her around town since everyone else had already left. The poor old woman looked so lost, I couldn't just leave her there. She really appreciated this and even told Mrs. Huckleberry about how I had helped her and spent the whole day showing her around town. Meanwhile, she had been busy spending over €100 in a single tourist store because she bought Entitled Kid literally everything she wanted because
Nothing was too good for her angel.
and if she wanted it, she'd get it. This happened frequently in a lot of the souvenir shops. Entitled Kid would see a ton of stuff and would rush her mom in to buy it all. But of course, Mrs. Huckleberry didn't buy her stepdaughter, Huckleberry Girl, a single thing. But that's not the end, not even close. We spent the next day exploring the D-Day beaches of Normandy. We had all gotten back on the bus to head back to the hotel for dinner when all of a sudden Entitled Kid cries out,
Where's my phone?
Mrs. Huckleberry tosses stuff around in the seats as they were quite messy and left their trash everywhere. Even the bus driver called them filthy pigs for this, and Mrs. Huckleberry said in her loud, booming voice,
Who took my daughter's phone? Speak up.
Our tour guide, "We can't stay behind and look for it. We'll be late for dinner."
No, we are not leaving until it's found. Get the students to help us look for it. It has her credit cards and ID in its case.
Why a 12-year-old had her own credit card and ID, I don't know. She was just spoiled like that. By this time, it began to hail, but this massive jerk was not going to let us go until her brat's phone was found. 2 boys, one of the ones being the boy who had given Entitled Kid his window seat ticket, got off and ran into the hail to try and see if she had dropped it anywhere nearby, but Entitled Kid herself didn't get off to help. Oh no, she was not going to go out in the hail. In the end, the phone was never found, and after an hour and a half of these boys out in the hail searching for it, but it was all topped off by Mrs. Huckleberry saying, "Don't worry, sweetie, I'll just buy you the newest iPhone when we get back." We were late to dinner, of course, and our tour guide was beginning to hate our group and favored the other school group. Why wouldn't he with people like this in our group? We returned to England the following day on a ferry. We went to their beloved Stonehenge, and they got super angry because the stones were roped off and untouchable. All the students were ill, and it was freezing and windy. So we were forced to get out in the rain for these people who canceled our entire 3-day Paris trip while the other school group had gone to Paris without us, and we rode all the way back to England just for them to still not be satisfied. They complained for the rest of the day, of course. Even the grandma was showing her true colors, complaining and whining about how
She came all this way and spent so much money to not be able to see the great stones up close.
But remember, this old woman didn't lift a single finger to fund herself. We paid for her to go with the stolen jelly sales money. This was it, the final straw, the grand finale. We were in London on the last few days of the trip, walking around the city. We had just left the hotel. I kept a small zipped bag on my back with things like my wallet and phone in it, and a few other small things and valuables. Mrs. Huckleberry and her goblin Entitled Kid were walking behind me. I didn't think anything of it, when all of a sudden, I feel the bag on my back being tugged. I turn around and see this brat unzipping the bag and start taking my wallet. Me, "Stop it!" I had enough of her nonsense over the year. Despite being pretty frustrated, I turned away and kept walking without another word, snatching my wallet from her and zipping it back into my bag. Then I hear her, the bellow of the entitled swine.
How dare you!
I stop walking and turn to face this massive behemoth. I'm a tiny 5-foot girl, so I have nothing on her. Me. What? She was taking my stuff. Why didn't you do anything? Mrs. Huckleberry.
She was just playing. Don't you ever touch my kid. What a rude and horrible girl you are. I'll tell the other staff what you did. How dare you tell her she can't be playful? She's a kid.
Yeah, a spoiled, entitled brat kid that isn't supposed to be here, I think to myself. I ignore her from then on and keep walking. I'm pretty angry now. We catch up to the rest of the group, where Mrs. Huckleberry immediately pulls the tour guide and chaperones aside and starts going off at them.
That awful girl called my precious baby a jerk. She stole entitled kid's wallet and harassed me. She's been harassing us this entire trip. Do something about this and send her home so she doesn't ruin the trip for the rest of us.
For context, I'm a quiet, reserved person. While yes, I did think they were both jerks, I didn't say it to their face. These chaperones had known me my whole life, and they knew this family had been a nuisance to everyone on the trip. They cut her off and turned to me. Chaperone. Did you call entitled kid a jerk? Me. Of course not. Entitled kid came up behind me and opened my bag and was trying to take my stuff. All I said was for her to stop. And then Mrs. Huckleberry started yelling at me and accusing me of things. They believed me, but I was already in tears. This family had single-handedly ruined the trip for everyone. What I listed wasn't even everything they did. I just don't want to prolong this more than I already have. The rest of the trip was angry death glares and muttering at me. The trip ended, and afterwards Mrs. Huckleberry went straight back to the office and gave them an earful about me. But the lady she spoke to had also known me since I was little and backed me up. And who was she other than a Karen? Yes, her name was actually Karen. Karen told her she was disgraceful and an embarrassment to the school, and that she was an awful person for taking the student sales money for herself and for treating me poorly, and that it was our class trip, not her family vacation. That's what I heard was said anyway. See, it may be rare, but not every Karen in the world is entitled. I just know Mrs. Huckleberry hastily removed entitled kid the following year and put her in a rival school, and they weren't seen again. I went back to the school often since my mom worked there as a teacher's aide. The next year, I would see kids in the grade behind me that had also gone on the trip, talking about how awful the Huckleberries were, and that they couldn't believe the way Mrs. Huckleberry acted and how she had canceled Paris and made the trip all about her and entitled kid. Still, I do miss the free jelly Huckleberry girl would bring. Funny enough, I moved to the UK and now live 20 minutes from Stonehenge with my husband and new son, and I can see it anytime I want. So Karen, what do you think of Mrs. Huckleberry?
I don't see what she did wrong. It's not every day you get to go on a trip like that, and she had every right to make it as good as she could for her family.
But what about all the other students? I mean, this was supposed to be a student trip.
What about them? They need to stop complaining and start thinking about someone other than themselves.
And Mrs. Huckleberry shouldn't?
She did nothing wrong. Actually, I'd like to have a girls' night out with her. She sounds like my kind of girl.
Karen, you're sick. AT&T tries to scam me for $139. I reverse it and get $72,000. After my wife and I got married last year, we decided that we should both get on the same phone plan. We went down to the AT&T store and met with a rep who told us we'd both be on an unlimited plan for $70 a month, all in, including taxes and fees. I was very specific about getting the all-in price for the service. It seemed like a decent deal, so we signed up. 2 days later, I log into the website and see there's already a bill for $139. I call up a rep to see what's up, and they tell me that between the activation fees, taxes, and surcharges, the bill was correct. I told them what the salesperson told me, and they basically told me to pound sand. I promptly told them I wanted to cancel the service and wanted the $139 waived. They said they could cancel the service, but could not/would not waive the bill. They also told me if I canceled immediately, my wife and I would lose our phone numbers, which is true. So I figure since I already have to pay for the month and I don't want to lose my phone number, I will just get a new carrier and cancel when I'm ready. So I do my research and find Visible, which is excellent, and we make the switch. I call back to AT&T and inform them that we have switched carriers and want to cancel the service. I ask again for a refund. The rep informs me that since I have had the service for 4 days, that I am not entitled to a refund. He tells me to read the fine print on the contract, which indeed tells me that I have 3 days to cancel for a full refund. I'm now fuming, because the first CSR that I talked to on day 2 denied me a refund if I canceled. I asked the next level of CSR and they send me to a customer care and retention person. I explained the entire fiasco to him and how I feel that I've been lied to twice by AT&T reps, sales rep and first CSR. He's a really cool guy and apologizes and says he'll take care of it and will completely waive the bill. I'm very thankful and hang up, thinking that this is finally resolved. Fast forward a month and I get an AT&T bill in the mail saying my payment was not received and is now late. I again pick up the phone and call AT&T. I eventually make my way through 2 CSR reps until I get back to the customer care and retention department. This time I did not have the chill dude. Instead, I got a very smarmy lady who said that the bill was due and I'd owe the entire amount. I asked her to please check the CSR notes and that the last guy told me that he would waive the amount. She put me on a 10-minute silent hold and came back and said she'd escalate the matter to her supervisor. She said I should receive an email by the end of the week with a resolution. 2 weeks go by, no response. I call again. This time, I get a very nice lady that is sympathetic. She says she'll waive the bill. She comes back and tells me that she can't do anything because the bill has already been sent to collections. She said not to worry and that she'll send a letter to collections and have them waive the debt. I ask if this will go on my credit report and she says no and that they'll take care of it. 6 months later, I get a letter in the mail from Sequim Asset Solutions out of Georgia trying to collect the $139. I immediately send them a letter via certified mail demanding that they verify the debt since it's obviously bad. I hear nothing for 2 months and then I get an alert that I have a negative mark on my credit. I go in and sure enough, Sequim has indicated that the amount is in collections. I immediately write letters to all 3 bureaus requesting that they remove the mark. A month goes by and every single one of the bureaus removes the mark, thank God. Another 3 months go by and then I get a letter from Sunrise Credit Services in New York, again trying to collect on the debt. This is truly unbelievable because it appears that Sequim couldn't verify it, so instead of apologizing and waiving the debt, they just sold it off to another collection agency. I send another certified letter to Sunrise demanding verification. I get nothing in reply. So far, they have not attempted to put a mark on my credit. That's where this part on my story ends. Who knows what will happen next? I could file a lawsuit, but the filing fee alone would be more than the amount owed. Here's the thing, I am not cash strapped. I am blessed enough that I could easily pay the $139 without marking a dent in my budget. I have lost 5 times that amount in hours spent on the phone and writing letters, but I am determined to go to the mat with AT&T on principle alone. This brings us to the revenge stage. You see, in addition to my day job as an attorney, I am an elected city councilman in my town, and when I was going over our monthly expenses, I noticed that we were paying AT&T close to $6,000 a month for our phones, internet, and TV services. We're a fairly small town, so it was pretty obvious that we were being bent over by these clowns and that we could save a ton of money by switching. I started working with our city manager and IT director on finding other solutions. We discovered that by switching to various carriers and providers that we could save half. I never would have looked that closely into our telecom expense had AT&T not jerked me around. 2 weeks ago, the resolution to switch was put on our meeting agenda and the council voted to pass it. We decided to completely cut ties with AT&T. Our city is saving a ton of money, getting better service, and with the money we saved from switching, we were able to hire another part-time animal shelter employee, which we desperately needed. I highly doubt our city would have considered switching if I didn't make such a stink about it. AT&T will end up losing hundreds of thousands over the coming years because of this. I hope it was worth it, AT&T. Well, Karen, what'd you think of that one?
Ha! He should have spoken to the manager. I would have demanded the manager remove that bill immediately.
Well, the revenge that he got on AT&T was a lot more epic than just that one bill.
You don't know what you're talking about. When you have a problem with a stupid company like AT&T, all you need to do is speak to the manager.
Say bad things about me to the owner? I make your life heck for 18 months. Okay, people of Reddit, here's a story about a slacker getting what he deserves. My uncle told me a crazy story of how he made his coworker's life a living heck. Now, my uncle worked in real estate for most of his life. This story takes place in 1977. Meet everybody. We've got Uncle, we've got the slacker. We've got the nice coworker and the manager. Okay, so at this time my uncle is working as a real estate agent in the LA County area in the state of California. He was working there for 10 years and was the lead agent, so he had a lot of responsibility. Now he told me that if he wanted to elevate his career further he could have, but he was happy where he was and often turned down management roles and was content where he was. Backstory. Uncle said that in June of that year a new hire came. We'll call him Slacker. Slacker put almost no effort into his job. He would be fine with selling a house here or there, but never put extra effort into his job. He did have prior experience, so this did help him get hired. My uncle, however, went above and beyond at his job. My uncle was the eternal bachelor type, so he was a workaholic. One day, the manager comes in and says that he's retiring. He said that there would be interviews next week to hire his replacement. Needless to say, people were talking among themselves. People wanted to see if they were going to apply for the job. Nice coworker. Hey, uncle, are you gonna apply for the manager's job? Uncle. Nah, it's not really me. Nice coworker. Okay, that's kind of a relief. If I went against you, it would be tough. Slacker. Uncle, you better not apply for that manager job. It's mine. Uncle. I'm not though. I'm really happy in sales. So next week comes and the interviews happen and the slacker is made the new manager, much to everyone's displeasure. My uncle didn't think much of it and continued his work as usual. He got a call from the owner a few hours later. It was regarding him allegedly doing things that he never did, like forging reports, lying to clients, and representing the business badly. My uncle said that he has no idea about that and asks where he's getting the information from. He said that Slacker told him this. My uncle quickly dispelled that as he had witnesses and an alibi on his part. The owner investigated and later apologized for making assumptions without checking. Needless to say that my uncle was mad because Slacker threw him under the bus for no reason. Fast forward to 1978. Slacker almost has no responsibility and he doesn't do the paperwork or be a manager. Coworkers relied on my uncle to solve problems because the slacker was useless. 3 months into 1978, and the general manager announces that he's quitting to become an executive. He announces that he's going to hire his replacement and the interviews will be next week. Nice coworker applied and Slacker. Now, the final straw is when Slacker asked my uncle to fill out his general manager application for him. It goes, Slacker. Hey, I need you to fill out this application and have it to me in 3 days. Uncle. Sorry, I can't. I have a lot of work to do. Slacker. I'm your boss. Fill it out. He just slammed the papers on my uncle's desk. Uncle politely put the papers back in his office and said, You fill it out. Slacker. You're gonna regret this when I become general manager. After 10 months of dealing with this jerk, my uncle had had enough. So he threw his hat in and applied for the general manager's job. When nice coworker found out, he explained, I can't take it anymore. Because of my uncle's experience, he was given the job. It hurt Slacker. Cue the pro revenge. Within a week, my uncle demoted Slacker and made him an agent. He also gave nice coworker the manager's job. Slacker said, You can't do this. My uncle said, Yes, I can. Nice coworker gave Slacker all the homes that were harder to sell, which meant he was going to have to work hard in the field. Now, usually there's a good balance between good and bad homes, but Uncle gave Slacker the best of the worst. He said to my uncle, I can't sell my houses. Give me better ones, and the paperwork is too much. My uncle said, Figure it out. Fill it out. Fast forward to 1979. Slacker has the worst sales in the entire company. He even had to sell his car and get a cheaper one because of it. He also had to sell his house at a loss and move into a condo. Slacker asks for a raise and Uncle says, I'm your boss. Just do the paperwork. Slacker gets to a point where he is only living on his yearly salary, not commissions. My uncle said he was going to charge that jerk for his past labor plus interest. Fast forward to September of 1980. Slacker talked to the owner and said my uncle was being unfair to him. Uncle plays dumb and says, Mr. Owner, this isn't the case. I have given Slacker multiple properties and he isn't selling them. How can I be accountable for his shortcomings as a salesman? The owner agrees with my uncle and ignored the future pleas of Slacker as he had proof that he was offering him properties to sell. Slacker is defeated. He asks to be transferred to another office as he isn't making progress. He agrees, but doesn't give him a good reference. He was fired 2 months later for 3 weeks of unfinished paperwork. After my uncle defeated Slacker, He went back to his old job and gave the general manager's job to nice coworker. If you're wondering what happened to Slacker, he ended up getting a job selling tires by the I-5 freeway. My uncle didn't see much of him after that. Well, just goes to show you, always treat your coworkers with respect, along with the employees of any place you visit.
Respect. I'll respect you once I have a reason to.
Crazy idea here, Karen, but what if once you treat people right, they can become much more easier to work with?
What a stupid thing to say. I treat people like exactly what they are, beneath me.
Karen, you're a jerk. Don't believe me when I say there's a PayPal transaction fee? Enjoy paying it 3 times over. This one literally happened just minutes ago. I run a small online business, and sometimes the buyer doesn't have a bank account. I'm not one to turn down money from a willing buyer though, so for such people, I give them my bank account details and direct them to the nearest ATM and do a direct cash deposit into my bank account. Problem is, the smallest note the ATM will take is $10. So if the item costs $7, buyers who pay using such methods have no choice and must pay me $10 for a $7 item if they really want it that badly. I just take the extra $3 as an inconvenience fee for me. Along comes this dude. He requests to make a payment by ATM cash deposit, but wants me to refund the difference to him over PayPal. Okay, it's gonna be troublesome, but I never turn down a sale. So I accept, but inform him that PayPal will charge a small fee for any amount I refund him. He's insistent that it won't, as long as the money is tagged as family and friends. Except that feature doesn't exist in my country. PayPal is going to charge a 3.9% plus 50-cent fee for all transactions in my country, but this dude won't listen. We eventually come to the agreement that he will pay me over PayPal instead, but he will bear all PayPal fees. So the dude proceeds to send me money over PayPal, except he sends the exact cost of the item. As expected, PayPal took its cut, and now he's short a few dollars. So he has to send me another payment to make up for it, but PayPal took a cut of that too, and he comes up short 9 cents again. He's peeved now and sends me another 20 cents. PayPal took all of it. The fee is 3.9% plus 50 cents after all. All this happened in under a minute, and I almost spat out my coffee in laughter. At this point, I took pity on the poor sod and agreed that he didn't need to pay the 9 cents anymore. I'll absorb it, because he brightened up an otherwise monotonous morning. If this guy had done a normal ATM payment, the overpayment would have been about $3. If I refunded him that amount over PayPal, PayPal's fee would have just been 62 cents. But because this guy chose not to believe PayPal actually charges a fee for their services, he wound up paying PayPal about $7 in fees. So Karen, what did you think of today's stories?
They were horrible.
Horrible? How dare you? These were some of the best we've ever read.
Oh, shut up, Mr. Reddit. It's ridiculous what people like myself have to go through, dealing with stupid people like yourself and your subscribers.
Look, Karen, you can say whatever you want about me, but don't you talk about my re-army.
Re-army. Most of your viewers aren't even subscribed to your channel. 70% if I'm correct.
Well, I can't argue with that. That's true. Most of my viewers don't actually subscribe for some reason.
It's because you're stupid, Mr. Reddit.
No, I'm not. Alright guys, let's prove Karen wrong by making sure you're subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications.
They're not going to listen to you.
And if you'd like me, or Karen,
what?
To record a special message for you, come visit me on Fiverr, link pinned in the comments below.
Never.
And join as a channel member today, and Karen will give you a special shout out in the next video.
Like heck I will.